back again. I'm just going to do it on this stream, just in case, it's just, I don't know, just not really relevant to the stuff going on my channel. I may not, render it, but, if somebody wants it, I can send it to them, I guess. But just kind of depending on first whether people even join or interested. I'll just separate it from the actual lesson. I think the lessons are important. I would say they kind of stand on their own, especially because of the narrative that, I've been pushing, I would say lately, through the God of the Bible, through the Bible itself. I want people to look at it, and challenge it themselves and see the consistencies from the book of Revelation to Genesis all the way, to the end. And so it, if that is the way that it's going to go down, that there are actually two witnesses that will be prophesying here in America. I know that's an outlandish claim, even for myself, that will be the way it is. But, that is what I've wrestled with and came to the conclusion that is the way it would have to be. Those things would have to happen soon. And so it's a bold claim. I don't think very many people will care or get it, but in the very least, it's important for people to be aware of it in case it does happen, and then it won't be shocking. And, I think then hopefully the people that are there during that time will refuse the mark of the beast, and it looks like they'll have to refuse it with their life, because a person will not be able to buy and sell unless they take it. And that forcing of it, that agenda, will begin with this rapture, this quote unquote rapture of the saints. So, I think that if people have questions, I think that it's tough, because these things that are coming out, I would say, in these days, we've never been taught, even just basic things that I would say are not that controversial, but even something like reincarnation is not taught, at all in Christian circles. And so these breakdowns, this understanding that I'm sharing through my channel, are challenging, for sure to understand. But I would recommend everyone, just like I'm kind of doing myself, is to, read the Bible yourself, go through it, challenge it, interact with it. And then I think it'll become very, very clear. You don't have to read too far in. The entire Old Testament, it makes sense now why it's not taught, because it makes God's sovereignty blatantly obvious, that God is just setting people up. He knows what they're about to do. He sets a punishment or a reward, and then he does that over and over again. And so he is controlling everything. He's sending people in to quote fight, but he's already, setting up the battle to be won or lost. And then that's happening. And so it's just over and over again. And so it means that God has to be involved in every single conversation. And he's not, in the times that we live in now. And so that's why the Old Testament is completely avoided. And so the Christianity has turned into just like a bunch of poetry, uplifting stuff, not that God's involved in everything, that God judges, God, makes alive and kills and all that kind of stuff, which is just blatantly obvious, in the Old Testament. So it's a good idea to go and relearn really the whole Bible, because the people that are teaching it, especially the people, even the people now in these days with a lot of truth coming out, I've noticed all these like alphabet soup groups, all these people on the streets and stuff, almost all of them are ball earthers. And so this is, again, the way that God wants it, is that he still wants the truth, to be perverted. And this to me, again, is just for anybody who has common sense, like go and study it yourself. Like if the ball earth deception has taught any of us anything, it's like, learn on your own, like don't go and trust anybody, anything that we cannot verify ourselves. And so that's just a smart thing to do. all the time. And so the Bible for sure is a good book to do that, to apply that as well, because it's, you don't have to be like a PhD or anything to like understand it. A humble heart, and just read it and interact with God directly. And then, he can shower a person with unlimited, understanding and very, very deep insights and connect things together and all that kind of stuff. And then that would be an incredible asset for any of us who hear that, and a person shares that with. There's a lot there. I think I didn't really give the Bible enough credit, even though I know it's a very, very big book. But now that I've kind of gone through like more than half of it, like from beginning to end, there's a lot there. There are some things that I, have been reminded of that I kind of sensed were true and stuff. And like, to me, it just, the God of it is making so many claims that he's impossible to be ignored. He's just making so many statements in every book that he's in charge of everything, literally everything. And so it's just incredible that a God can make that many claims and then make claims about the quote end times, give a narrative for it, and then even after that, and give insight into that. And so that is the God of the Bible. And so to me, anybody who has an ear towards God and spiritual things, the Bible is a very, very good place to start. So I don't see any people who are around. I'll shut it down. I'll just give it a few more minutes, but I'll be honest, I don't really have that much left to say. I'm not saying what I posted is everything that the Bible can teach us or anything like that. But for me, it's about all I need to know, like for me personally, because if the Bible is not true, then my whole channel is a waste of time. For example, if the earth is a ball, but if it's true, but it's in a different time period, I don't know. I don't really have that much advice for people. I don't really know even myself necessarily how to handle the world that we live in now. I don't really know, what advice I could give somebody unless the Bible is true and then we're in the end times, because it's essentially saying that it would mean that there's more evil to come, and I just don't know. I don't know what to say to somebody to encourage them or advice or anything like that. So I would be at a complete loss. I would be almost at as much of a loss as if the Bible is not true. To me, it would be almost just equivalent, because it's like, well, I don't know, like what strategy can we employ living in a time like we live in now, but the Bible is going to fulfill itself like way down the road. I mean, I just don't know what to say to that. So, everything that I've posted recently for people that can accept it. And again, there's a lot of things there that I'm just, I would say really my entire channel going out a limb, but flat earth, stationary earth makes it less risky to be a quote unquote Bible person overall for anybody. There is a God. Now the question is which one? And so the other steps that I take about reincarnation, about America being Mystery Babylon, Jesus being dark skinned, the Negroes being the biblical Jews, the mark of the beast and all that kind of stuff, those are still very like solid, because there's either evidence of it directly in our life or there's strong evidence within the Bible, that is a consistent expression of God's character. So I know it's tough for people because they maybe haven't seen that stuff maybe packaged together in a way. Anybody who follows end times or has an interest in it from the mainstream, you'll see just a bunch of stuff like lines all over the place. This happens and then, oh, maybe this will happen. And I've watched some of them for sure. And I was into this years ago. So it's confusing for sure. But the way I laid it out, it's actually like relatively simple. And so it's exciting because it's simple, but it's also a bit challenging because no one else is sharing it at all. And so, but I don't want that to be any different. It makes perfect sense to me. I would say the entire Bible has leapt right off the page, into my mind and my heart because of that template, that sequence that is everywhere. It's like in mathematics, it's like a kernel. It's like a fingerprint, that you see everywhere from beginning to end. And that gives me a tremendous amount of comfort that the Bible is internally consistent. And it's the same, quote, spirit that was speaking through Ezra, that was speaking through, obviously, Jesus, that was speaking through John the Revelator, and Daniel, Malachi, everybody, Zechariah, Micah, everybody, even in the Old Testament, or like even in Genesis, the same kind of thing. It's the same God, who's speaking. And so for me, actually, just in my own sort of personal spiritual journey, it's never really actually been an issue of like the details about God and his plan. It's just, for me, has been, does God exist? Like throughout my life, I found it really hard to believe actually that God exists, just because we weren't allowed to talk about God, and I think even in my family, and obviously God did this, especially with what I know now. So I more wrestled with the fact that does God exist? And so now that, again, because of flat stationary Earth has given me a big, I would say, push towards the finish line, hopefully a lot of us, the details and the mechanics about what he's going to do at the end, I'm not saying they're not important, but to me, they just make sense. It's just like, well, if God exists, like, why would we want to be here, in any kind of state, much less a broken, evil state like this beast system has created. So it's not that I'm worried about, how challenging it is, to orchestrate that and all that. I do think it's a pretty tight timeline for 3.5 years. I think 3.5 years would be fine for me, for America to still stand without any other problems, just purely from a financial perspective. Yeah, I mean, it's, they could keep it going and, keep the propaganda going, and then just people who don't have money will kind of just like slough off. But the claim that the Bible makes, and I want people to know this, that in Revelation 16, there are plagues that are described on top of the tribulation that people are going through right now. So that's the part for me, just, again, I'm just being as honest as I can about what I share. That's a little bit hard for me to believe. But then again, I mean, God made people, he made an earth, he did all these things. So, and he's done it in the past, with Egypt, Moses and getting his people out of Egypt. He would like send plagues, tell them to release my people. Pharaoh would say no, go back, send another plague. Like, this was happening, and people would just stand by like, yeah, okay, this is what, like, they would just not think like it's a big deal. And so if he could do it then, he obviously can do it now. And it would be almost the exact same thing with almost the exact same characters. And so that's the only part that I'm like, wow, financial problems a lot of people have, compounded now with being forced to take the mark of the beast. People will get plagues after they take the mark of the beast. He's going to start turning water into blood. He's going to start power outages. He's going to make the America dark. All this kind of stuff. It's like, I don't know how the average American could deal with any of that stuff. Like, that just doesn't make sense to me. But again, God can do a lot of things. I would not wish anybody to go through that kind of stuff, because it doesn't sound good. It doesn't sound pleasant. But I want people to be deprogrammed, or at least be open to the fact that if what I'm sharing is true, that there will be two individuals who will be blamed for all the calamity on earth. And they will be two dark-skinned people dressed in sackcloth. They'll look homeless, and they may actually have been homeless up to that point. And the world will not get it. They'll just be like, there's no way that those two people are representing the God of the Bible, but it will make sense for people who follow my channel. Obviously, because it'll be literally happening. But then it won't surprise people, first of all, that two dark-skinned people represent Jesus, who himself is dark-skinned. And then it won't be surprising that they'll be poor, because, like I said, God only really can manifest himself through poor people, because they are the only people that are creating a place that he can dwell here on earth, because everything else is filthy, everything. And so he can only put his spirit. I'm not saying he can't work through us like other people, just quote normal people, but not to the extent that he can and will be through these two people, like who I believe are Moses and John the Baptist. And so they will be administering plagues. And so God can only dwell in people to do those kind of works if they're very lowly, and so just goes against what the world teaches us. Look at all these debates and all this nonsense. How many subs do you have? Like, what are your credentials? Quiz me, like quiz you. What do you know? You're dumb for questioning. All this propaganda, all this freaking gas that people have been destroying our brains with all these years. I'm telling people, and I say this very confidently, about the heart and mind of God. He will be operating through people that we don't expect, even me, and I teach this. But Seek, man, what's up, dude? How's it going, man?
What's up, man?
Hey, how are you?
How you doing?
Good, man. Everything's
How's
good?
the audio? Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can. Yeah.
Okay, that's what's up.
Are you traveling or moving, or are you static?
Say it again.
Are you driving?
No, I'm home.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, not driving today. No, I'm good.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's I can hear some like kind of echo.
I don't know what it could be, yo.
Well, wait, it's gone. Actually, it's an echo of my car.
Okay, I'm about to say I don't have anything running or anything, so.
Yeah, when I speak, I can hear an echo of myself. Let me remove myself and then put myself back in.
All right.
Okay, just testing, see if this is better. Oh, okay. Yeah, it's not bad. Oh, damn. Let me remove you and put you back in. All right, let's see if it's left on.
Any better?
Yeah, I think so. Well, it's okay. I'll let you talk, man. It's only when I talk. So, what's up, man?
I mean, I guess I can. I got you just coming through the speakers. I guess I can.
Yeah, can you mute anything?
All right, I'll be right back. Let me go grab some headphones.
Okay. If people join, can you just tell me who you are? Who's daddy? Just if you can type it in the chat just before I add you to the call. I was hoping to kind of talk to people kind of one-on-one, but let's discuss your virginity. That's hilarious. And Ebby something. If you can just type in the chat who you are and I guess just what you want to talk about. Flat Earth Boxer, man, I'll be around for, I'll stick around until people are, bored or whatever. So if you want to join, man, you can jump on. There's no real topic, actually. I'm just kind of, just whatever, people want to chat about and stuff. So you can join, man, if you want. If anybody wants to join, I just ask that they turn their video off. Like, I don't want any video of you or I just don't want that. And if anybody does turn on their video, I'm going to just boot you no matter what you're saying. I don't want like porn bombing and all that kind of stuff. Not that I care, because I'll probably just delete this rendering anyway, but I don't want to see it. I don't want it on this channel or anything like that. But yeah, Ebby Reg, who are you, I guess, and like what would you like to discuss? I've never seen your handle before. Yeah, Flat Earth Boxer, I'll stick around, man. So yeah, I'll just probably chat with Seek and Find. Carlos said he wanted to chat. This guy Carlos Pagan, I gave him a hard time quite a bit, and so I was going to give him a moment to speak now and defend his case. He's one of these ballers who are on these hangouts a lot, and I'm obviously tough on all of them, but I find the worst ones are the quote Christian ballers. They really scare me, and he's one of them. And I just said that if he wanted to chat, this time period is probably the best one. I'm going to leave the times that I do those lessons kind of on their own, unless somebody wants to ever discuss that verse or those chapters. I'm fine with that, especially Mies, if he's ever around. Or if anybody, if people want to ever talk about a specific book, you can email me and I'll read it and review it and do lessons, quote, on demand. If people want to go through something, or if they want to go through it together, I'm fine with that, and we can do something collaborative. For me personally, I really actually not that I have ever hated reading the Bible, but I enjoy it more now because I would say I have a much stronger purpose behind it. Just because I'm now challenging my own work, it's just what any good person does in science. It's just to present something, and then challenge it. I want to see whether it's true or not. And so, that's something that, I'm open to. If anybody has anything that they want to critique about what I present on my channel anywhere, I'm very, very open to that. So, yeah. But Seek, do we want to try and see if it's the reverb's gone?
Hey, I'm back. Can you hear me?
Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, good. There's no echo now, dude. Yes, perfect.
Yeah, I may have a little background noise because my kids or whatever, so I apologize in advance.
No, that's cool.
So you can hear me okay?
Yes, sir. Yeah, and there's no echo, so it's really good.
All right.
Yeah, what's up, man? How's you weren't a dad for the first time recently, right? It was your second?
Right.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
That's good, man. So everything's good?
Yeah. And actually, mind to God, I'm sorry. If you give me just like 5 more minutes, man, I'll be right back.
Yeah, that's cool.
All right, my bad.
Yeah, that's cool.
Sorry.
But yeah, so that's the plan, I would say. For me, I'm not quite sure what book I'm going to do actually going forward. I don't know, actually. I'm almost done the Apocrypha, and I'm not sure if there's anything there yet. Still have to go through, I think, 1st and 2nd Maccabees, but haven't seen anything that I would do an entire lesson on. Then I'm going to go through the Gospels, and like the New Testament. And again, I'm not saying they're not important. If I can offer something new, I may, do a lesson. But I would say a majority of my contribution to through my TMOG channel, through prophecy, through quote breaking down the Bible. For me personally, I've found what I was looking for recently. I'm thankful for it. I don't think I could have lived with what I've known in the past, knowing that this is the way things will be. But again, I would say for me personally, just again, from a purely academic perspective, I like the thought of getting feedback, getting challenged, and all that kind of stuff. I would say the only warning I have for people, and I'm not going to do anything to anybody, but you're going to be discussing topics with somebody who thinks about this almost every day for a long time. And so that's my only caveat, and I'm not saying this to be arrogant, but soon, within a week or so, I will have read the entire Bible again from beginning to end. And so,
hey, I'm back, man. Just to let you know.
But yeah, Steve, what's up, man? So what's going on, brother? What's new?
Cooling it, man. Not too much is new, just working,
Yeah. What do you think of these debates, man? Because you're a person who's like followed them. Like, what are your overall thoughts on flat Earth and stuff?
Well, that debate last night, man, I think was, I don't know if you watched it, the one between Nathan and Team Skeptic or whatever.
Yeah, they were live, right? I saw a bit.
Yeah,
I saw a bit.
The quality wasn't too good, but the parts that I caught or whatever, it wasn't too good for Team Skeptic. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I think Nathan did a pretty good job. But as far as the debates go, I think we're dealing with a whole bunch of dishonest people. So
correct. Yeah,
sure. I'm the type that I like to hold their toes to the fire a little bit and make them squirm, and they don't like that. So
yeah,
they try to say that the questions are just simple and we've answered that already. Well, the answer that you're giving isn't up to par in my eyes. So
yeah. Dude,
that's why I ask them.
The stuff with like the horizon and the background and all that. Like, I can kind of get a vibe from the ballers that that makes them a little bit uncomfortable. They won't admit that, obviously, but that to me is that was a pretty strong hangout that they've had recently. Yeah, I mean, for me, I think it's pretty much settled science. Like I always say, I know it's flat, for sure. And there's no other.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. I mean, like you say, man, we're definitely not spinning or moving,
Yeah.
And we know the properties of water. So, I mean, it's pretty simple. I think, for me, the debates are fine, but right now it's just a lot of muddying in the water, and people just don't want progress. I think so.
Yeah, I don't think it's gonna get serious now. I think it's just gonna die out. Like, have you done a mental simulation, Seek? Like, what if we had a solution that we could share? Like, what would happen to the world, you think?
Well, what do you mean? What kind of solution? What do you mean?
Let's say we had like a test or a setup by the water that somebody could literally go and visit, or a video that, shows something very like physical. There's no way to like weasel out of it. Maybe we even have a group of ballers who agree to the test. Let's say hypothetically that we have that. Like, what would that do? Like, how would the world react to that? Like,
I don't know. That's a good question. It would definitely be crazy.
Yeah, there would be like mayhem in the streets.
Yeah, and to be honest, I probably should give more thought to that. If it did come out, I think the censorship and the way people fight it so much.
Oh my God!
But
you brought me into the show, boys. What do you want to talk about?
Is this FE Abby?
What?
Oh shoot! Sorry, Seek. I thought that was somebody in the chat.
It's all good, man.
I just added somebody, the wrong person. But yeah, no, I don't know, man. I think I've done that mental thing, and I don't think that it will ever. I don't think it'll ever get to that point, because like too many people have way too many questions that like, who could answer that? Like, where did all of our money go? What is all this stuff that we're sharing? I don't know.
Right. So I kind of had some questions I wanted to ask you, man, if you don't mind. I guess how long have you been Christian, if you don't mind me asking, or reading the Bible?
I would say so. My story is like, I was like 18. I was golfing with a guy, person I still slightly sort of in touch with to this day. And then he stopped golfing on Sundays, and then I asked why, because I was like, dude, it's screwing up our golf routine. And it turned out he wanted to have like family get together, or his dad wanted that to be a religious day, like, because it's Christian family. And so that actually started the first discussion I've ever had about Christianity with him. And, like naturally most people who are Christian and then they talk to somebody who's like, I'm Hindu, I was Hindu, they're open to answering questions. And I hit them with all the usuals, like, how can Gandhi be in hell? How can God send people to hell? Jesus seems very like exclusive. How can that religion be the truest one? It's not even the oldest one. And hit him with all that. And he gave me a Bible. And so I started reading it around that time, like 17, 18 years old. And I remember the book literally, it was called The Rock. It was a New Living Translation. So like, it was pretty soft, I would say, the way that it translated the Bible. But yeah, that's my first sort of journey. That's the beginning of my journey. And then I joined Campus Crusade for Christ in undergrad in Western. And then I joined the Rice Graduate Christian Fellowship at Rice, and I was the president for 1 year. And so I was like pretty into Christianity, but not into end times. So
okay, that's cool, man. Yeah, I was just curious, because I think I remember you saying that you were atheist at some point in your life, right?
I would say I function as an atheist for sure. And I, to some extent, still do. I'll be totally honest. Like, I still find it hard to believe that God exists, even though I teach this stuff pretty much every week. So I resonate with like good-natured atheists. I resonate with them. But yeah, I would be a Hindu, like a light Hindu, and then basically one of those annoying Christians, basically like those staunch evangelicals. And then I am what I am now. So whatever people think that I'm a cold black Hebrew Israelite, even though I'm Indian, but I don't mind being labeled that, but I don't agree with much of what they teach. A lot of them are ball earthers. And so like, I definitely don't agree with that. So, yeah. But yeah.
Yeah. See, for me, it's hard for me to believe. And I don't know if I've told you this, but I was I was raised Christian or whatever.
Yeah, you did. Yeah.
In the past couple of years, I've kind of backed off of it. I still have a soft spot for it.
That's
so
good.
I do lend my ear to scripture reading and stuff like that. But
that's good.
it's hard for me. I've always been a naturally inquisitive person, and it's hard for me to get past certain stuff. I just have this inquisitive mind since I was young, so
yeah.
It's hard for me, especially like with the so I'll give you an example with the Israelite doctrine or whatever, whatever you want to call it, so like God is punishing a certain group of people, for a certain amount of time, and that's brutal. And that, I can't wrap my head around. So that's like divine intervention. You're giving a certain group of people, this divine intervention to have way with 400 years. I mean, that's crazy to me.
Yeah. So wait, is it the way that they were punished that you have the major qualm with, or just the whole notion of being punished?
I couldn't hear you. You
sorry. Do you have an issue with the way that they were punished, or just the fact that they would be punished at all, in that way?
Well, with the fact that God gave the right to a certain group of people, even if you start from the beginning and say, okay, God has a chosen people.
Yeah.
To me, you're going to have problems right from the get-go. You know what I'm saying? There's going to be a certain group of people who are not chosen, and they're going to feel a certain type of way about that. And it's just going to start. You're going to start with strife right from the beginning, and I don't see God that way anymore. To put it lightly.
So I definitely won't come across with all the answers, but just something to think about. And maybe you've seen a video I've done in the past about conditioning spirits, and it's just my engineering analogy. And I think that if we knew that, or even had some way to wrap our brain around that, because us as humans, we know that if you go work out in a gym and you do certain work, you'll get stronger, and the muscles need to tear down and then rebuild. So it makes sense to us physically, but it's difficult to understand the notion of a chosen people, a group of spirits. God likes certain spirits more and all that, unless we understand how God even first makes a spirit or presents a spirit into a body and then conditions it. So I would say it's okay to not, have all the answers. I don't think anybody will know that. But I would say it makes sense to believe that that's the case, that there is a group of spirits that are closest to him, however we even measure closeness in the spirit world, and then they're being conditioned in some way that we don't know how. And if we did know, I would say we would know a lot more. If a person knew how God can put something inside of a physical body, and the body does things that makes the spirit, when it leaves, more, quote, more pleasing to God, that they'd have the answers to everything. They would be, I would say, essentially the Most High. But we have to believe that that's the case. And I think that those mechanics, maybe we'll know, maybe we won't, even in the quote afterlife. But that to me is a necessary thing if you really want to get to the deeper levels of how that is the case, that God has a collection of spirits that he has his eye on, and then he's conditioning them, and sometimes even through brutal torture. Shoot, man, I don't know. That's heavy. But, that I think is necessary, but I don't think we'll get it on this side.
Yeah, I hear you, man. And like I said, for me, then this is just my outlook on it, where I'm at in my life right now.
Yeah.
Is that, as soon as you try to label God, then you're going to have problems. And it's going to, I just take a step back and look at the bigger picture and see all the strife and the war and, people fighting. That's it's a church, down the street, and it's another church, a couple streets away. And it's like, y'all don't even agree, but y'all, are teaching the same. It's just, for me, it's so many denominations, and nobody can agree on this or that. And it's just causing more confusion than good for me when I take a step back and just look at it. So.
And I resonate with that, because in a sense, what I've done in the last couple of weeks is I've added another denomination. It's like T-Mog's denomination with what I've shared. And that does make me uncomfortable because, I'm adding to a list that's huge. And I would say I'm the only one. There are other people that believe in two witnesses, but they'll believe that they're in Israel. There are other people that will believe Jesus is dark skinned, but they'll believe the ball earth. Or there'll be people that believe.
Yeah, and let me just say, sorry to cut you off. I'm not trying to deter your faith, bro, in any way.
No, I'm not. I don't sense that. And I would say between you, me, even people like me, like I'll never sense that. Like you're not Carlos. Like shout out to Carlos if he's listening. But I don't sense that at all. But I would say for people in any of these Q&As, just for people to understand what maybe Seek and I listen to on these Ball Earth debates, we go on these debates and people don't like to be challenged. They don't. But real science loves challenge. Real science loves more solutions, more precise solutions. And I'm a real scientist. You know, I want to put my Revelation video out there. I want to put my scriptures out there, and I want people to tell me that they're potentially wrong, because I don't want to believe something that's stupid fundamentally. So I definitely am not opposed to being challenged, but the only thing I warn, and I say this in a friendly way, I think about this every day. It's like literally somebody going to Kobe Bryant and saying, you know, I can teach you something about basketball. And obviously Kobe would probably listen because he wants to learn something new. But when you hear people like Kobe Bryant talk, he thinks about basketball 24/7, like, because he's really good at it. And same with Tiger Woods. And I'm not saying this to be arrogant, but I think about God and I want to know why I'm here desperately.
Yeah.
Like a lot. And so for people that want to maybe challenge what I share about the Bible, you have to read the Bible first. You know, like you have to really like think about it, you know, and stuff like that. I'm not saying Seek doesn't, but that's my only request is for people who come by here, especially, is that this is not a financially driven channel, and it never will be. You know, this is a why are we here? You know, not just me. Why are we all here? I want to know that. But Effie, Laura, sorry, man. What's up, man? How's everything?
Hey, how you doing?
Good. So
yeah, doing good. So I wanted to get your guys' take on Israel, because I believe that once you accept Jesus as your Lord and Savior, you are grafted in as a spiritual Israelite. And I believe when Jesus died on the cross, he divorced his original covenant. It's till death do us part. What's your take on it? Do you think the remnant, the 144,000, are they going to be people like us? Are they actual, like the people that call themselves Jews today? What's your take on that?
I would say the thing that is encouraging, and again, this is by design. The Bible says, and this has to be by design, that God has spread his people in all nations. And so they won't look. When I say that the poor will be taken away, I don't just mean poor people in America. And I don't just mean, quote, African-American poor people. I mean poor people everywhere around the world, in Spain, in India, and Pakistan, everywhere. And so I don't ever want to come across too focused that this is only for dark-skinned people or any kind of one type of person. That's not the case. And the Bible says that in many places. But with your question about Israel, so this is why my channel, and I would recommend people think this way, especially in these times, is called The Mind of God. And it seems arrogant, and we're told to be careful to not go too far down this road. But think about this from the top down. It isn't good to do this because, you know, they say like walk a mile in somebody else's shoes, like, you know, look at something through their own eyes. Let's get a sense, because we have a lot of knowledge in these days about God's perspective. First of all, he's a spirit. He then is now somehow, and I don't know the answer to this because we just talked about that with Seek, how he puts some of his own spirit in people. We don't know that, but that looks like that's happening, you know, from many places in the Bible. And so it looks like, just again from the Bible in the end times, that they're going to be in all different nations. We have no idea of back calculating who is from the 12 tribes from a lineage perspective. And so we are now recombining our family in spirit and in truth, whoever that family of God's right-hand side is. I'll tell you for sure who's not in that family are people who take the mark of the beast. And so we kind of know by context. But the spiritual aspect, man, that's why I want people to understand that anybody who approaches God with a humble heart and is not just accepting of certain truths, but always pursuing truth. That's the most important thing. God gave me certain, I would say, again, if these things happen the way that I'm teaching, he only gave that to me like 3 weeks ago. And so like prior to that, it doesn't mean that I didn't care about the end times or God and the poor. It just happened recently. And so it's a pursuit that's most important. If people don't like that Jesus is dark skinned, but they're not resistant to it, he will explain that, even if it takes them seeing him, you know, in that state as a dark skinned person. So I'm never too hard on people who are at least open to certain things and investigating certain things. But ultimately, a person, again, if they're pursuing truth intensely, That is not a human thing. The government does not inspire that. Our parents will probably hate if we do that. Our family will hate it. So that, to me, just whether we talk about Israelites or non-Israelites, Gentiles or whatever, that has to be from God, because it's like a process of elimination. Who else did that? I didn't come up with this. I didn't think when I was 18 years old and I started reading that Bible that I would be thinking about flat earth or sitting here talking to Seek and Find and, FE Ebby about the Bible in this way. I had no idea. We did not plan it. Definitely our family didn't. Certainly our government didn't. And it's not another religion because we're drawn to the God of the Bible. It has to be him. So just by process of elimination. So I take more comfort and I get more, I vibe better with people like Seek and Find, for example, who I know is a flat earther, than a Hebrew Israelite who's a ball earther. I know that they're outside the fold, if they stay in that path, because they're preaching something that we know now is completely against the Bible, and especially if they start doubling down and saying, oh, all you people are going to die and go into slavery and all, just yell at random people walking by, when those people could actually be in their fold, and so that's bad. And so we can again tell by a person's vibration, and so I would say for anybody out there, focus on that in these days. That is an Israelite, a person who is genuinely seeking after the God of the Bible and disregarding their own life, their life of the people around them, certainly the government, what they're feeding us. That person is not inspired to do that except by the God of the Bible. So that might be a vague answer, Lara, but that's what I would say. I don't know if Seek has a thought on that, but that's what I would say.
Yeah, I thought that was a pretty good answer. I do notice when I watch what's that?
How would you define it? Just to answer your own question.
Well, I believe basically the people that are calling themselves Jews today are imposters. I think the Black Hebrew Israelites, they have some stuff right, but I think the spirit is not love at all. So, we'll know them by their fruits. I definitely believe Jesus was dark skinned. I think that's kind of hard to get away from. That's never really been an issue for me.
That's good, because that's hidden for a lot of people. They won't. This world is filled with white supremacy, and people won't accept it.
Yeah,
it's just what it is. It's not a race minority thing. It's just a fact.
When you say white supremacy, this is what I have, brought together in my mind, at least.
Yeah.
I think the white supremacists are these imposter Jews. I think they try to put a bad name on just regular average white folk. I mean, that's kind of leaving out the, Catholics, the evangelicals. I mean, sure, those people are white, but I think the ones pulling the strings, I'll watch videos where one guy, he's saying, well, do you want, a white holiday? And he's just like, well, I'm Jewish. But then you'll go to these meetings and then they'll be saying, oh yeah, we're white, we have white privilege. But then you find out they're Jews. But then you're just like, wait a minute, are you white or are you not white? I don't get this,
Okay.
So, I really feel like they are trying to divide and conquer us, whether, that's pitting us gay versus straight, which, I definitely don't support the homo agenda at all, but, we should still love them, not accept them for who they are, but what they can be.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that's true. God can rescue Donald Trump, out of whatever the hell he's doing. God can rescue a homosexual and give them infinite wisdom in a moment. And then if they take the mark of the beast, they're on our quote team. That's what it is, And heterosexual sin is not better in any way than homosexual sin. That's a fact.
Right.
And so, but one thing I do want to clarify about the white supremacy comment, I just think it's better to just not be a supremacist of any race right now. Because again, the cool thing about what I believe is that God says that they're going to be in every nation. And again, it has to be that way. If a person can understand the agenda of the mark of the beast, the people, quote, raptured have to be literally Chinese, Pakistani, Indian, African, Canadian, American, Mexican, everything. That has to be.
Chime in here.
Yeah.
Sorry to cut you off.
Yeah, that's fine.
Mind the guy.
No, that was my point.
So part of my hiccup is like, so when God says he chooses a people,
Yeah.
isn't that like a form of supremacy?
Yeah, but the cool thing about it though, Seek, is that it's not like we have to worry about identifying them as being any better. They're identifying themselves. That's what I sort of kind of wanted to. That was my point earlier, is that people, and especially if you saw a bit of my hangout prior, people just random trolls and stuff, they don't want God. And I actually, in my mind, I never understood, why would somebody like hate God? You know, like why? Like, what's the big deal? Like, what did he do to you? Becoming obvious now. People actually hate. So God is pre-programmed a certain.
I think it's because they see bad things happen. You know what I'm saying? And they attribute that and give that to
not them.
Saying, why would God let this happen? Why would God,
Not them. Let's excuse those people, because those people I feel like are wrestling with God. That's fair. I'm talking about people who are like, Jesus is gay. I hate
actually
Jesus, all that. Okay. Those kind of people. And so, yeah, I would say the group that are actively seeking truth and all of that, by definition, are his chosen people. It's just what it is, just by definition. And so offensive that he has a chosen people, because those chosen people are now doing the things that they want to rejoin with God. And there's another group that don't. So they're the non-chosen people. They're just the actors in this. So I don't know if that helps, but that's the way I would sort of word it. But
when I came into this flat Earth movement, it was a real eye opener to just see how much people hate God, because the Bible says, the earth isn't moving, it doesn't spin, but then you get the exact opposite. We have 6 literal creation days, but no, now it has to be millions of years. Anything the Bible says, these people seek to do the exact opposite. And that to me is like super chilling. That was
because it doesn't make sense.
Right. That's what showed me the deception, and that's what led me to Jesus. It was like, this is so obvious. If I deny this, like, I have to be an idiot.
Yeah, atheism is a joke. First of all, we know that. You don't even need the flat earth, but like anybody who believes in the Big Bang and all that in the days that we live in, they're just completely out of their mind. And anybody who then can move past that and not give Jesus, the God of the Bible, a chance, just give him a chance, that person's out of their mind, because the Bible, the God of it, makes claims after claim after claim that either he's just completely out of his mind or he's exactly what he's saying. So, hey, Carlos, you can join, man, but can you turn the video off, dude? Any like random, there you go. Cool, man. All right, but sorry, I might have cut somebody's point off, but Laura or Lara?
I wanted to. Can I bring up a different topic?
Yeah, that's fine.
I wanted to see what do you guys think about starting militia groups for the end times?
To fight against the government?
That, or shoot, whatever's to come. As in the days of Noah, they had giants, they had hybrids, they had all kinds of crazy stuff. Mm-hmm. It could be fighting against that. It could be fighting against the New World Order, or just having a game plan in place, or showing up to town hall meetings where they're trying to take our rights away little by little. And also, through spreading these militia groups, they don't have to just be, a defensive, offensive type of thing. We could go out and, spread the gospel and, maybe even stand on sides of street corners with signs saying research flat earth, or come to us and, ask
with
us some
an
questions.
AR-15 on our back.
I wouldn't mind, but I'm in California, so that's not going to happen.
If I may, I would say we need to look into see what our job is actually supposed to be after the second coming. And I don't know. That's a good question.
Yeah, that's a good point. What is our job?
But wait, have you seen some of my stuff recently where I show that it's not just one coming, it's Christ coming, interacting regularly with the earth during a great tribulation period? How did that sit with you?
I haven't seen it.
Okay, so
yeah, I haven't seen that.
What I've taught, and I believe that this is the way it will go down. Obviously, people can debate, but Christ comes in his quote second coming to remove his elect. And those are, like I've said, his cream of the crop. They'll be blind, lame, homeless, but they'll be, most importantly, probably everywhere on earth, in every nation. And so after that, there's a 3.5 year, I believe, literal great tribulation period where now God is literally it says tempting the entire world with the mark of the beast. And those that refuse, that's the mixed multitude. And that's God's right-hand side.
So do you believe that, like, this is what I see. I see that when the end times take place and the Antichrist is about, the Christians will be persecuted, and either their head will get cut off or they take the mark of the beast. Like the judgment of God isn't reserved for us, but the judgment of the Antichrist definitely is. Do you believe we won't be here during the time of the mark of the beast?
It's only a select group, and I would say if we're not, if this, I believe this event has to happen soon. So let's just say it happens next year or two. If a person is left behind, it doesn't mean that God doesn't like you. It means that certain things that he wants us to die, but we have to die through pain. And the Bible says that. And so people don't like that, but those who refuse the mark will be beheaded, they'll be killed, they'll take their own life or whatever. But I would say at that point, it's up to that person to decide if they want to tough it out. But I would just say anybody who has common sense, if you see a group of people taken away, that's God doing it. There's no I'm going to, my kids are going to college, or there's none of that. I feel
do you really think it's going to be that soon, like a year or two?
It has to be, because
I think it's within 29 years.
We're in a beast system. The elect are described as people being not able to lie, literal virgins potentially, and homeless, and poor. And so if a person is homeless, let's just say one of them. One second. Let's say one of them is homeless. We'd have to then now think about God making these statements in many places. How many days consecutively will he want this person to be homeless? There are middle-class people who are homeless now. So forget about, and it's not funny, but forget about lower-class people and forget about poor people, like homeless people. So I don't, I sort of understand your stance on all this, but so salvation has nothing to do with being able to be the elect? No, salvation is only for the elect.
Okay, but what I'm saying is that so just being homeless it gives you a ticket to be the elect on the second coming.
No, it says in the Bible, which is common sense, that those elect are not like the Joel Osteens or the pastor.
Yeah,
okay, yeah. I mean, you know that, but just for people to kind of get a sense, be a quote champion in the faith. It's the opposite.
All right.
It's and again, if people can understand what I shared with the two witnesses, that is actually John the Baptist and Moses, and they're going to be poor. And so people would not think that God would be able to pull the strings on earth using two poor people. But that is the way that he'll do it. And that makes sense, And so
interesting.
Salvation is only for the elect. The other people that die in the great tribulation period and don't take the mark of the beast, they're described as a mixed multitude, again, people from all nations, but they're going to experience God and his his presence, but through pain. And so this, again, it just makes sense. There's a group of people that have more faith. God doesn't want them to die in that way. He just made it that way. And then there's another group that aren't sure about things, and God is going to test them. But the Bible says that in that testing period, they're still given white robes. They're still part of the life inside. And that's where I think all these people, whether you're a ball earther or not, even though I'm hard on people who are ball earthers like Carlos, but at that time, that's the time of sifting. And if I'm in that period as well, God's going to test me too. Obviously, I'm not taking the mark of the beast. That's ridiculous because I hate being here now. But anybody, whatever their theology is at that point won't matter. It's only going to matter whether you take it or not. And that's the cool thing about it. You can be a Pentecostal, you can be a freaking fruitcake, Joel Osteen, whatever the hell you believe. As long as you don't take it, and then they're on our team.
So can you elaborate more on the mark of the beast? I've heard you call it different things. Like people say that the vaccination is the mark of the beast.
I've never heard that.
Using the I've heard different things. So what do you think? Is it going to be narrowed down to one thing?
Yeah,
what the mark is?
It's not even actually so much the mark. It is the mark, but it's anybody who accepts the narrative of after this rapture. If anybody accepts that narrative that the government feeds us, that's what it is. They're going to say these people disappeared. If we put this device in you, we're going to keep track of it. We're going to help, we won't lose you. Like these aliens came or whatever, but we know that that's God doing that. So,
right. But what would you consider accepting the narrative? Like what, is that going to be an action you're going to take?
Yeah.
I mean, because every time I think of the mark, I'm thinking of something that you're going to physically allow on you in order to be able to work, be able to work in society and be able to do things. And I don't know. So
here, I'll tell you what it's not. It's not, oh, there's this UFOs, come get an ID tag or a card. It's not that. That's fine because we already have that now. That's not the mark of the beast. It's not anything like a necklace with like a number on it. It's not a number that they assign you, like a different number or something. It has to be in the body. If it's not in the body, it's fine to take it because we're doing that now. It's no different than it is now. That's why the Bible, to me, it's like in many places puts itself in a corner and makes it kind of hard to believe that it'll actually happen, but it has to be in the body because only if it's in the body.
Right. So like like a tag, RFID tag.
It has to be in the body, whatever it is. Anything in the body, we're not allowed to do that.
Because I know a lot of things are going to like using retina scan and also RFID, and you know how they say like on your forehead and on your hand.
Yeah.
And like I'm picturing is basically it's going to be a database, and it's either going to be able to be activated by a RFID implant or it's going to be a retina scan. And it kind of
fine. That's not the mark of the beast.
What?
If it's retina scan, that's fine. I don't think that's the mark of the beast. It has.
Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing. Though, in order to be on the system, you have to allow to be scanned in, to your retina into the system. So I don't know. I just don't picture somebody putting an actual implant on your face or on your head.
I don't either.
To fit, because if Scripture says in your hand or the face or on the forehead, correct?
So the forehead part is a bit spiritual. It's not like Rothschild is going to be sitting there with like a little thing in his hand. They already have this beast system is being orchestrated by a group of people. A lot of people already have the mark of the beast, and it's not a physical thing. It's
okay. So what is it then?
They're part of the beast system. They're going to be the ones telling other people to go and take it. So like they may not necessarily have it. So it's like you have to understand the context in the Old Testament. If you read in the Old Testament, God put a mark on people in a spiritual way. So
so basically, accepting that's what you mean by accepting the narrative, then. Yeah,
exactly. So these are people who are pushing the narrative, and like if it's ever voluntary, if it's ever outside of the body, I don't think the Bible's true. I think it's just do it, whatever they say. It's not because we're doing it now. It's not a big deal.
Gotcha. Yeah, I find this very interesting. It's just so hard to think about this now with how everything works, but it slowly is starting to be feasible. I just go ahead.
Whatever it is, it has to be pretty soon, or else, at least as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Given what I've looked at and what I've become persuaded by, the end times timeline has to be pretty, very imminent.
Correct.
Given the Revelation 12 sign, at least for me. I don't know if this is. I don't think this is T-Mog's point of view.
No, you're right.
I don't know.
The Revelation 12 sign.
We've been hearing that. Okay, we've been hearing that for so long that it's close.
People are going to say that. That's also in the end times.
But wait, Carlos, his Father Boxer came on here a couple of weekends ago and gave us like a sign that is happening in the heavens. But also, it's not just that. It's we're seeing a flood of lies. That is what that is symbolizing here on Earth, and we see that. And so, it's not just there's stuff going on in the sky. Okay, we're obviously in the end times, but all these things are happening at the same time. And again, I want people to be very aware of this because it requires deprogramming from the way that we've been programmed. God cares about the poor. I know that that's outlandish, and people say, "Oh, he's saying it sound like deep or whatever." I'm telling you, it's literal. He doesn't care about Jeranism. He hates Jeranism.
No, he doesn't hate him. He hates his sin.
He hates Jeranism. He
Carlos,
hates Mark Sarkin.
please,
He hates all these.
Please.
He hates all these people, man. So now,
Okay,
now we know that he loves the poor. The poor are growing in number, and they're sleeping on the street with their back hurting. Those are the people that he cares about. And again, I honestly feel like this should have happened already. But if I'm complaining and I'm a sinful person, there are atheists that are complaining that this world is unlivable. What do you think the poor people, and it's not funny, but what do you think they're saying to God every day? And I just read today in the book of Sirach, when a poor person says a prayer sincerely, it goes right to God's ear. It doesn't go through his angels. It doesn't go through anybody. God listens to it directly. So people think that's a joke because we've been programmed by Joel Osteen and these other retards. I wouldn't think that's the way it is. So it's
I think all prayers go direct to God.
Okay,
But,
Carlos, you said people have been saying this for so long. All right, just prevent you from using that as an argument at any point again in the future and thinking like this is 2 Peter chapter 3 verse 2, that ye may be mindful of the words which were spoken before by the holy prophets, and of the commandment of us the apostles of the Lord and Savior, knowing this first, that there shall come in the last days scoffers walking after their own lusts, and saying, where is the promise of his coming? For since the fathers fell asleep, all things continue as they were from the beginning of creation. For this they willingly are ignorant of, and that by the word of God the heavens were of old, and the earth standing out of the water in the water, whereby the world what then was being overflowed with water, perish, and so on and so forth. So I'm saying whatever, like, if it doesn't matter the fact that people have been saying it for a long time, the fact that if you're ever using that as an argument, understand that you're putting yourself in a position of those who perish. So don't even use that.
I think I agree with that, Flat Earth Boxer. Defend Carlos a little bit. He's not completely against that. I think it's sort of fair.
No. Here's what I mean. It's like, we've been hearing, oh, it's getting close, getting close, and I wasn't using that as an argument. I'm just saying, like, yeah, we've been hearing that a lot, but the reality is that now there's a lot of signs, and now to me it seems a lot more feasible. I was just saying that. I wasn't disagreeing with you. I was like,
Here's another good one from Ecclesiasticus, which is the book of Sirach 21:5. A prayer out of a poor man's mouth reaches to the ears of God, and his judgment cometh speedily. And so, again, I'm not saying this as I have any inside knowledge or this means that we're in the end times or anything like that. I just want people to put this in their feather, in their cap, as a thing that goes against everything that we've been taught. And again, I've been in that system, so I'm saying that sympathetic. We've been programmed by the system to think that God listens to these high up people. This is outlandish. First of all, that the prayer out of a poor man's mouth reaches God's ears directly, and that will trigger his judgment. No one will say that. They'll be like, oh no, it's like whatever, like when Paris Hilton's done, her TV shows, or like, well, when Friends episode 12, season 12 finishes, that's when. No, I'm telling you, the poor are increasing in number, and this is by design.
Big facts.
The point that it will cross is there's many different things that are happening at the same time. But I want people to know that the poor growing in number is probably the most alarming sign, should be, for the end times, because the poor have grown in number so quickly in the last 20 years. It's just a fact. Like, just look at the stats. Like, it's much.
The poor what?
The poor have grown in number. More people are comparatively poor.
Oh,
yeah, absurdly fast, dude. I put a stat recently. 85 people have the wealth of like half the world. Like, I was just like, what? Like, that was
that's crazy, man. The disparity is crazy.
Yeah, well, that's sad either way. I mean, I there's multiple reasons why this is happening. You would think in a world of this technology and
God did it,
and things are just so accessible, that wouldn't be possible. But it's insane how there's so many people, especially in those big cities like San Francisco and
Carlos.
California. It's ridiculous.
The top 20 Americans have the same wealth as 30-some million people, like the population of Canada. That's crazy.
And because of the universalization of media and standards, everyone is now completely aware of just how poor that they are compared to everyone else in the world. There's a global standard. Like if you're a Thai 30 years ago, you didn't understand how poor you were if you were living in some jungles of Assam. Now you have a smartphone telling you just how poor you are compared to the average American, compared to the average this, compared to everyone knows they're poor now.
And FEB, it's one thing if the poor were increasing and then the rich, that's also one thing that we could deal with. If we were working off the land and we could still eat and housing was not that expensive, we could complain, but we could still stay alive. But now the cost of living is increasing. And for spiritual people, the cost of living spiritually is increasing. So there's one curve going exponential. There's another curve going down, in terms of morality and all that. So
that one's going straight down.
So it's all these confluence of events. And also I would say, I know Carlos is a ball earther, but the flat earth awakening, the awakening that people are getting about Revelation is means that we're there. God literally says that he's sealing his 144,000 with angels with a mark in their head. No like RFID. We, as we share these things, again, if we're on the right-hand side, God telling us these secrets is proof that we're in the end times, because he wouldn't tell us this 50 years in advance, because like what good would that? We'd go crazy. God's telling us these things because they're about to happen.
This has to end. It's an apocalyptic scenario. Let's say you didn't even believe in the God of the Bible. Let's say one way or the other, this information, you're not going to have a decline in flat earthers at this point. It's game over. So either way, the system's going to reach a point where it's insoluble. And not just the American system, not just the European system, the world system is going to become insoluble. So you're going to need an apocalypse, whether it's the apocalypse of God or the apocalypse of just the failure of the quote unquote global system and a lot of uprisings and people to the wall.
That's why, as a CPA, again, I'm not saying I know everything about financial stuff, but it alarms me, and I know about these things because, like, it's scary, man. Like, it's just really, really crazy that the world is about to, quote, desolate, depopulate on its own, like, just through, like, financial disparities, much less God coming in, even, like, blowing a little bit of his breath on the earth, much less all the stuff that we read about in Micah and Malachi and Zechariah. Oh my God, dude. Like,
it's such a house in the cart. This whole system seems like it's so pleasant. Everything's cheap. Everything's easy. But all of it's supported by the expansion of debt. The infinite expansion of debt. And it's, okay, the government just borrowed more money from the Federal Reserve. The economy keeps going up because they're just borrowing more money. But the more money that they borrow, the dollar's valued less. And it's just this constant lie that's just pushed decade by decade by decade.
Yeah.
Well, how could you not think it's an apocalyptic scenario?
We're all required to sin. The people on CNBC doing the financial commentary, they have to sin because they're lying about the stock market, and we know that they're lying. Then the people who consume it, they're lying. Then the people who listen to like Trump and all that, they're lying because we know that they're all actors. Everybody's lying. And so, like, again, I'm not saying this to keep harping on the poor and the elect, but there's a group who are not allowed to lie. And God, that's the only thing God cares about. But for people who can hear this, God needed all the lies for those people that are now not lying to love truth. And so I can't explain everything about that, but that's the purpose of it. And so there are a group of people who will not lie. And if you don't lie these days, you're not going to be able to function in this society. You will not be able to get a job. You will not even have a YouTube channel potentially. People will, whatever, your parents, family will hate you, this and that. So it's just the way it is. So
yeah, that's the thing there. That's the reality that I cannot. That it's they're conditioning everybody to agree with everything and just blindly nod your head like, okay, yeah, sure.
Correct.
And just it's slowly, and it's getting horrible. I mean, today I passed by a church and it had this sign, and it just said everybody's okay, and women are I don't know whatever of their own body, and it was like, what? It's just like all this propaganda to try to bring people in just to say, yeah, we're complacent, we're okay with everybody. It's like no judgment here. Yeah. And it's like, then you do have to love your brother and your sister, but it's just the way that just desensitizing everybody. Yeah. I don't know.
But so Carlos, you're on a panel with flat earthers. I got to ask you this. Let's just say for a moment, I know you don't believe the earth is flat statement. Let's just say it is. Do you think that might be the cherry on top of all the stuff that we're agreeing on? Do you think that might be a pretty big fat cherry that God is plopping on the top of this ice cream sundae, letting us know, like, hey, I'm about to come and do some things? Like, what do you think? I know.
Thanks for bringing that up. keeps bringing that up because knowing that he's a globe earther is this splinter in my soul. I'm like, do I bring it up? I gotta like.
Dude,
how do you not? How do you think it's a globe?
If the earth is flat and stationary, God is about to open up on this place. Like, and I don't know what I'm getting, so I'm not excited about it. Trust me, I've committed many, many sins today. But no, I'm not excited about it. But if the earth is flat and stationary, which goes against what many, many people have been taught and believe, God did not bring that out through Eric Dubé, Russian vids, and all these Masons, Sargent, by accident. Come on. Like, I'm sorry. Like,
I don't think they're Masons, but I just think they're not anyway. But if the flat Earth was actually true and the timing, yeah, I would say that it would be the
okay. Fair enough. That's good.
I agree with that, but I don't think it is. So.
Okay. Is there anything? Just so I understand where you're coming from, bro. Is there anything in the Bible specifically that leads you to believe what you believe?
Is there anything specific in the Bible that leads you to believe what I believe as far as
the Earth being a globe going around the sun in the middle of a vacuum?
No, there's nothing that actually can say here this is scientifically or what's it called? There's nothing there. I mean, I've seen all these scriptures that they use for the flat Earth. But to me, it's just a matter of a translation, being translated.
Got it.
So there's nothing in the. He believes that they don't know what they were looking at. That's what he would say. Okay. I'm like, dude,
okay.
Come on.
Fine. That's fine. I get it. So you're saying, just so I understand, I want to make this very clear. You're stating that there's nothing in the Bible that informs your belief that the Earth is a globe going around, or that it's a ball going around the sun, or anything.
Okay, let me answer this by saying it myself. I wouldn't go to the Bible in order to say, here, this is why I think the Earth is the shape it is.
Yeah, we know that.
Got it. So it's a yes. So it's yes or no. The answer is no. There's nothing in the Bible that informs your belief on the issue.
But Carlos, would you say it's neutral or pro flat Earth, or you don't want to make a statement like that publicly?
No, I got disconnected. What was that?
Would you say it's neutral about the geometry, or would you say it's pro one, like flat Earth, or would you not even want to say one or the other? You would, like you said, you would not even pursue the Bible to get an answer, or would you at least say that it supports a flat stationary Earth?
I wouldn't go to the Bible in order to prove the nature of our cosmology.
Okay,
I would
but
just give God the credit.
I knew it, flat Earth. I knew he wasn't going to answer, so I just gave. That's
not. I got it. But that's in the name, because if I'm going to keep engaging in a discourse with somebody, I want to make sure that they're gonna like if so I can assess just how honest they are about even just to themselves.
Yeah.
Because if you're saying like, oh, I wouldn't go to the Bible to thus and thus, that's not the question. The question is there anything in the Bible that informs your belief? Your answer is, I wouldn't go there. Well, I'm asking you, is it there for you to go to? And your answer, if you're being honest, is no. And you know that.
Yeah. No, yeah, I haven't looked deep enough into the Bible. I've seen other people bring up scriptures and context and the original language to say, here, this word has been used to describe something spherical, and then for other things and for the earth. But I haven't looked at it myself on the original language. Hebrew.
Okay. No, so you're not a globe earther. You're not a globe earther. You're not a heliocentrist. You simply have no idea what you're on. Yeah, it doesn't enter your mind.
No, he believes he's a globe earther for sure.
And you think the Earth goes around the sun? Do you think the Earth goes around the sun?
Yeah, he does.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Is there anything in the Bible that informs that? You're going to say no in more or less words. Okay. Is there anything in your empirical experience that informs you that the Earth is moving at all?
Yes.
Okay. What informs you? Okay, wait. What informs you that the Earth is moving at all?
Well, I don't want to go and crash the Monogod's chat over here.
Okay, but it's just pick two things. Just pick two things that informs you that the Earth is moving at all, empirically or biblically.
The movement of the celestial objects like the moon and the sun, and other testing with gyros.
Okay, so the movement of the sun informs you that the Earth is moving.
Yeah.
That's what you're saying. Okay, so do you know what the Holy Spirit does? The Holy Spirit brings you into all truth, all right? And it's like, imagine you're sitting on a chair and you see a car go by, and then a person next to you says, "I know I'm moving because I saw a car move by." Do you think that, like, do you? Sorry,
not to take away from this, but just so you know, this guy's like, he's a hardcore baller. Like, and I'm not saying this to be rude to either of you, but we've gone through this with Carlos over and over and over.
So hey, Carlos, let me ask this real quick.
I don't mind you asking him, but we've gone through this. Like,
okay, I give up. I'll tap.
He goes on other channels to defend baller almost every day. Just
this man is Satan. Okay, I'm sorry.
Hey, just real quick, Carlos. What do you feel about? Have you seen, like, in the maths that there, 666 is like laden through some of the baller math? What do you feel about that?
I haven't seen the 666 on the math. I've seen some people around some numbers to make it 666.
Jesus called men Satan for less.
Yeah, he would just say that it's a coincidence, but I would say I definitely have called Carlos Satan many times, and I still sort of stick by that. But I would say, in light of our with respect to our conversation today, I would say if these things do happen and Carlos does refuse, again, this is all if there's a mark of the beast forced in the body and Carlos refuses it with his life, I will, I think I made a mistake, saying that. So I believe anybody who refuses the mark of the beast with their life, they are on our team.
He might not be Satan later, granted.
Yeah, but
well, I appreciate you recognizing.
Yeah. I didn't kick Carlos, by the way, just so you know. He keeps dropping in and out. This is hangout was for him because
the Holy Spirit, guys, the Holy Spirit.
But Flat Earth Boxer, just so you know, like some of us, like me, Seek, and stuff, we go up against this guy back in the day almost every day, dude. He's hardcore.
I became provoked because I found myself using seconds of my life and constantly fading the little daylight that I had. Listening to the discourse of someone who thought the earth was a globe spinning. And I'm like, okay, why is any time being used here? This feels chilly and
But I would say, just so you know, our agreement or getting some out of Carlos about the end times, that's not common, because I find a lot of ballers, they don't want to talk about the end times and they don't even want to wrap their mind around the possibility that we're in the end times. So Carlos, at least, this is more progress than I've ever had with him, because I've had to wrestle with him. Literally, he wanted to kill all of us and all this kind of stuff. So, like, this is a more productive conversation than in the past. But yeah, he's hardcore, dude. I'm talking like every day he's on multiple hangouts defending baller.
Sounds paid. Sounds like a job.
Yeah,
sounds like something that someone get paid to do.
Yeah, and I think it's happening on the flat earth side now. There's now ballers don't know this, but some of us have moved past them. And we're more worried about the flat earthers. They creep us out. So, yeah.
Sorry, really bad connection, guys. I came back.
It's okay, man.
But Flat Earth Boxer, if you have a minute, man, did you happen to check any of my stuff lately? What are your thoughts on the two witnesses being literally two people? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Given the nature of how John describes stuff in the book of Revelation and how comparatively literal he is.
Yeah.
When he says two witnesses, I think it stands to reason. I think he means literally two witnesses.
Okay, that's good. Because the Hebrews won't go there, man. They don't want to talk about that. They think it's them. I'm like, you guys are teaching ball earth and you think you're the two witnesses? Are you kidding me? Come on.
A point of clarification. There's the Hebrew Israelite camps who make up, let's say, 90% of what people will understand and see of the Hebrew, quote unquote, Hebrew Israelite movement, which itself is a redundant term because all Israelites are by definition Hebrew.
Correct.
So, and I think the whole designation is just, and these camps are designed to create to be the stand-ins, like the way the alt-right is designed to be the stand-in representative for any person who is American who is not blind.
Yeah.
So these, and that's why they have all these fake anti-Semitic attacks done by Black Hebrew Israelites and blah. But these people. These represent as far in my experience, represents a minority of the Israelite movement, the majority of which are just Negroes who suspect that they're Israelites and are interested in the commandments and the law of the Bible.
Yeah.
Which that guy sent you named Truth. His YouTube is Truth Unveiled. He gave a lot of breakdowns. I'd say he's a very prominent voice in the community of blacks who simply just think that they're Israelites and think salvation is for all who accept and blah 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 blah. So yeah, that's I think and these GMS guys who are out on the corner screaming that Latinos, blacks, and Native Americans are this and that, and white man is Esau and all this stuff represents a very loud and vocal and Masonically supported minority. Yeah, which that's good. Which just blinds. It just takes something that's true and then adds so many lies to make the truth being expressed completely irrelevant because they're mixing it with damnable heresies. Yeah, but just not holding you to this, but just as a form of kind of just what you think. You don't think it's outlandish that two people, that narrative, you don't find that, I don't know much about the particular claim besides what you said of it, but even what you presented, and if I were to have read it myself, I don't see any reason why I would suspect that two witnesses would be anything other than two witnesses. Because the two witnesses are as described. Yeah, it's just amazing for people who are Bible people to think that the two heroes, John the Baptist and Moses, are actually walking earth right now. They're literally here in America planning to go to bed, tonight, and they might be homeless. For me, that's incredible, an amazing thing. Not that this ties in with the reincarnation notion. Yeah, they're here. They would have to be if that interpretation is correct, and I think it is. And I think that also for people, again, this is not fear mongering, but what I presented is that whoever you believe those two individuals are, whether you believe it's spiritual or literal, is very important. But they're going to be here in America, which means that they would be controlling all these plagues here. Home base will be in America. And so that means that they're going to be doing plagues on top of the struggles that America has already. And I want people to be aware that that's a strong point that we should all of us, I'm saying myself too, we should brace ourselves because America is standing on 3 legs at best right now. It's interesting that you bring that up because oftentimes I try to look around at the world I'm living in and try to imagine, because I've been getting into reading Hebrew and learning the Hebrew worldview. Yeah. And try to imagine how a Hebrew just from back in the day would look at this world, seeing men dressed as women and calling and protesting about. I was at a pro-life protest and people were saying things. They would have a heart attack. Yeah, they would have a heart attack. Even if they could understand the English language, it would be, they'd call for this place to be destroyed immediately, and they would by necessity be. How would you can't even make a farm in this country without taking out loans from Jews that you can't pay back, which is, like you said, is a lie. Yeah. So you can't even live the truth without lying. And just be aware of this. It's not so outlandish that there's evil. I don't want people to think, T-Mog, you got a paper cut, so now he's crying. To some extent, I do that. But I want people to be aware. This is the religious people that have completely defiled the earth. It's not the atheists that we really get on that to, because they're atheists. They're just doing what atheists do. They try and stay alive and whatever. I'm not even saying it's good or bad, but the religion has been so corrupted and it's very, very obvious. It's so obvious, and it's scary that even people who hold certain truths, big ones, even flat earth or Mark of the Beast or Mystery Babylon, they're still perverting religion. And so I'm not even talking about Joel Osteen, T.D. Jakes, and those kind of people, but I'm talking about people who hold some amount of truth. And so the religious community of the past, the Israelites in the past, the heroes of the faith, they wouldn't even think that this is real. They'd be like, what are you talking about? People are reading from the Bible, trying to profit from it. People are reading from the Bible, not taking it literally. Unfortunately, this is a shot to Carlos, but they think we're dumb. When look at them, we don't know that, we don't know that the sun has stopped moving or whatever for a whole day. We're not smart enough to do that when we can build an entire ark and make a tower all the way up to the heavens and all that. These morons don't even know what a unique solution is. You can't even milk your own goats. You can't even raise or milk your own goat. Yeah, dude, this place is.
How can you build a tower all the way up when there's no air?
All the way up to the firmament.
How? But the air is not breathable up there.
How high up have you been to test that?
Carlos.
And you stay.
Is the Bible true or is it not true? I don't even want to waste another 20 minutes even.
No, it's a good question. We don't know how high they went. Maybe that was the extent. Maybe that is where God said, look, you guys are climbing too high.
I think he was just making a point, and not necessarily that they were going to reach the firmament. But I mean, I'm sorry, I don't mean to derail the thing. That's just what I think.
going back to that. But I just wanted to say real quick, Siraj, Shrek, appreciate you letting me in, and thank you for taking back the fact that you call me a Satanist. I really find that offensive, especially since you really don't know me that well. But the fact that you're realizing that I actually will take a stand on the mark of the beast, then I appreciate at least you realizing that. So. And,
well, I would say one thing, Carlos, one thing that I have to say in lieu of some of the predictions that I've made, and I realized I got to stick by them. I'm not going to renege on what I said. And so what I've learned, and I think it's been very good for me, is in the last few weeks where I've laid out the timeline, it's been, again, like I said, very exciting because I see it everywhere in the Bible, but also very scary because it means that it's happening now. But I also learned about this mixed multitude, and I realized what is special about them. And I found out in that time that 3.5-year tribulation period, if we're in it, the only thing that God is looking for is not taking the mark of the beast. And so I didn't realize that, honestly. I thought it was like something else or whatever. And so this is where I believe God is very merciful. And when the rubber meets the road, it's ultimately God or the government narrative. That's just, he only gives to people. I would say God's elect, they don't even care about the government narrative. They know that God exists. They are getting the hell out of here, literally. And so that's the understanding that I've gotten. And yes, I do take back what I've said really to anybody, even Mark Sargent and all these people. I don't know if they refuse the mark of the beast, and obviously I have to as well, then we're on the same team. What happens after that, I don't know in any detail. But yeah, so if you're in that group, even Rumpus, anybody, fight the flat earth. If they're living in that time and they refuse the mark of the beast for whatever reason, they even refuse it, just out of pure principle, I believe they're in the mixed multitude. I believe that they're part of God's right-hand side.
Very well. I just think it's hard, when I see, and I just have this conflict because I see so many people who have these testimonies of, I didn't believe in God, but then flat earth came, and then, now I'm realizing the creator, and then they learn about salvation and they turn their life around. And I'm going, well, even though I don't agree with flat earth, and I think that it's not the actual, cosmology, but what about these people who are turning their life around because of flat earth? So, I just have that conflict all the time and say, well, I just kind of, I will go and debate, certain things about the cosmology because, to me, certain things are obvious or whatever. But I'm not taking away the credit from the creator and from God, and some people, like you in the past, have thrown me on the, with the bunch that, well, you just believe on the, what the devil and this, that. And I go, well, no, I just, but anyway.
Well, I to tell you the truth. Your reason the word for conflict biblically is called double-mindedness. If you believe one thing and then you see reality that contradicts the belief that you have, that's called cognitive dissonance. And that cognitive dissonance is going to cause internal conflict. So when you're seeing that something is true and the fruit of that thing is positive, but you believe something for which there is no biblical evidence to substantiate it, nor is there any logical empirical evidence. There's no empirical evidence from which you can logically derive the conclusion that the earth is moving. But you believe the thing nonetheless, of course you're going to have conflict. And the only way to resolve that conflict is to change your mind.
Right, but I agree with the last thing you said. There's no empirical evidence and stuff for the cosmology that I believe. But that, of course, that's your opinion. To me, it's the other way around. But at the end of the day, like I said, I'm not taking away taking credit away from God from the creation. I think that either way we can credit God for the creation regardless of the type of cosmology. But and like I said, it's conflict because I'm still trying to figure it out. So yeah. I'm still trying to work it out, trying to understand, what route do I need to take? So anyway, I appreciate your time. I do have to roll out.
All right, man. Yeah, thanks for coming by, Carlos. Don't take the mark of the beast, man. Warn your friends.
Well, hey, I will. Don't do it. You guys have a good one.
Yeah, peace, man. Take care. Skyfly Bree in the chat is just really angry. If you believe in God, then I'm afraid that your name is insulting him, assuming that God is male, because that's a big statement to make when God is almighty. I don't know where God is a male title, the mind of It's the female. He created. Those are all ideas. Skyfly Brie is an idea of God. Myself am an idea. So is Seek and Find and Flat Earth Boxer. Those are all ideas. Everything that exists has to be an idea of God. And the Bible says that he does all of it for his pleasure. We don't know much beyond that, honestly. These sequence of events, obviously, we do, I would say, more now. But male, female is a concept. Those words God came up with and then obviously put them to life. And now he's also made transsexuals. God made all these things. A tranny did not wake up and be like, hey, I'm going to have confused emotions, like not know what I am. No, God made that. God made all that. God made homosexuality, transsexuals, and all this kind of stuff. Come on. You're telling me two parents got together and decided, yeah, we're going to have a child with breasts and a penis? No, God did all this stuff. And so people don't like that, but that's common sense if a person can understand the Bible. And I want people to think this way, first of all, because it's common sense, but also because it means that we'll know all the evil that's filled in our cup, like a literal cup maybe, or symbolic. God filled that, and don't blame Satan. Don't blame the person who's administering it. And this is the biggest issue I have with the quote Black Hebrew Israelites. God did that and he wanted them to wake up and turn back to him, but a lot of them aren't. And I don't understand. I'm just being totally honest. If I was in their position and somebody put me through that, I would be on my knees. Like, just what the F did I do to get into this situation? Like, and they're still not. They're still yelling at Esau and the white man and random people walking by and stuff. And like, I don't want us to do that. We can't control what they do, but the few people that come by here, if you have any beef with the world, your own level, your own world on your level, things that, within your family and stuff, bring it up, take it up with God. He created you and the ecosystem around you. That's for sure. That's just common sense. I could bring up thousands of verses that prove that, but just use common sense. Causality, it's the same thing. Don't listen to these ballers. Like Carlos, we had a good conversation there, but for the most part, they don't know what's going on, like in the world or anything. They don't read the Bible, none of that. So
use the word causality, and it says, and like this is 2 Thessalonians 2:11, which obviously. And for this cause, God shall send them strong delusion that they should believe a lie. So there's a direct causal relationship between the lies that these people accept and the fact that, with all deceivableness and of unrighteousness in them that perish because they receive not the love of the truth. So yeah, it's a cause-effect relationship. It's him who's doing it. And getting mad about it is like pissing against the wind. And you're right about that. As regard to Carlos and my frustration with Carlos, that I heard, I hear it all the time. And in my own discourses, I have the ability to just be like, all right, you're lobotomized. I'm just going to leave you.
Yeah. I wasn't trying to take away from it. I know where you were getting at. Basically, we do that like every day, really, back in the day with him. But I would say some of these people on the more technical side, this is not a shot to Carlos, but his like people above him, they know that it's flat, because the way they defend their stance is non-technical. It's not rigorous. And so I give Carlos a bit of a pass because I don't know what he is or what he does, but he seems a bit more like the everyday average person. But dude, yeah, we wrestle with this guy like every day. Like, we know we're not spinning. That's preposterous. Like, that's insane. Once you see that, you can't unsee that. That's just what it is. Like, come on. Like, that's
a person who is like that. I don't know what it even means to argue with such a person about anything at this point, because it's like having a debate with a senile man.
Yeah.
So even if they agree with you, what does that even mean?
Yeah.
Okay, they agree the mark of the beast is a physical implantation in your hand or head or something. Okay, but you think the Bible says the earth is a spinning ball, so you'll change your mind tomorrow.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, that's what scares me about GMS is like, yeah, they push the chip as the mark of the beast, but we have no idea what they're going to do when the rubber meets the road. And that's why I would just recommend for people, interact with God directly. There's so many people that are switching teams, they're switching genders, they're switching everything, and I'm not saying this to even make fun of them. Like, it's scary, the world that we live in. Don't trust me or whatever I just presented. Maybe I would say, to be totally upfront, I would consider it because it's very, very well thought out. And I'm not saying that to brag, but I've supported it with the entire Bible. It's not just a random idea. So I would look into it, but even whatever I share, don't take it as gospel. But yeah, there's a lot of people who are undercover and we don't know what they're really trying to do, like what their real agenda is. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that degree of suspicion. Yeah, to justify it, because I think you said something about 3.5 years, give or take, in addition to whatever time is left until then.
Yeah.
And
1200
doubt as to that particular, like, whoa, that's pretty soon. And my spontaneous feeling is that, yeah, if all I have to go on is the way that things just look at a very surface level and how convenient my access to goods that I need in my daily life is, and the fact that I'm getting checks on a daily basis, not daily basis, but like about a bi-weekly basis and so on and so forth. Everything seems pretty fine. I mean, look, I got a large TV and a couch, not many things on my wall, but I mean, everything's fine.
Yeah.
I live a life that all of my ancestors did. My food is very, well, other than my recent ancestors in the last couple centuries. So everything's very convenient. How could things go wrong? How could things just stop in a couple of years?
Yeah.
But look at the stars and the ordinances of heaven. I can't but help. I mean, either it is within 7 years of that event, or I need to seriously reconsider.
Yeah, I am. I wouldn't. Me personally, I don't recommend this for other people, but I wouldn't take the Bible seriously if things don't start happening according to the Bible, just because I think things are going to start getting really weird. Without any like quote UFOs or anything like that, it's just going to get strange. And so
it's funny that you say that, because I make that exact same wager. If this doesn't get weird within 7 years after this event, there is something really. Now it has to be, like, it's that simple. It has to be, no matter what the signs, no matter what the things at the surface level, like ground level, seem to be telling me, those things are lies.
Yeah.
I'm not even prepared to properly interpret them, because I've been living in this shit for 28 years.
I would say for people out there, if you see this event with these UFOs, just don't make too many plans. Like, don't get comfortable here. Even if you're family, God will do this. He'll test us. If you're married with a wife, and they'll take the mark of the beast, like whatever, just, this is all part of God sifting. Why he's doing this at a high level, we obviously can't know. This is just too big, but don't fall for the narrative. That's insane. Like that means God exists.
You watch Owen Benjamin?
What's that?
Are you familiar with Owen Benjamin?
Yeah, I've heard. Yeah. Yep.
He's constantly exhorting people who are otherwise clever, intelligent people who would otherwise be woke who are woke compared to the world, top 10 to 90%. Sorry, top 10 to 5%.
Yeah.
He's getting them woke, and he's telling them, go out. Get your wife pregnant, have kids.
Yeah, I know.
You need to have kids. I'm like, okay, yeah, great exhortation in general, great idea to have kids. But right now, it says in the Bible, in the end times, woe unto them who are giving suck in those days. And it's
bad,
like,
if what I say is going to happen, it's going to get bad, like quick.
So that's just creating more opportunity. You're creating suffering for those people by trying to encourage them to do these things. And have hope. No, dude, everything's gonna be fine. There's gonna be. You just need to become a Hollywood actor.
Yeah.
And then make a few $1 million, and then buy a goat farm. And then in the meantime, with your $50K a year job, living in a suburb, just start having kids. Just bust them all out. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. Dude, they're trying to lead these people to slaughter.
No, it's bad. Like, I don't know actually what the answer to that is about families. I think his overall vibe is just really weird. Like, he's just a flat earther who doesn't realize there's like all this evil and stuff. To me, anybody like that, like the Mark Sargent, him and other people, Patricia Steer and all them, we're weirded out by you guys just because of the fact that you don't realize that a lot of evil would be needed to hide the shape of the earth. And so, like, you don't have to necessarily be in end times like us, hardcore at the end, but you got to acknowledge that that's a pretty big deception, like huge. And it's not just the money that NASA's taking. It's our minds have been fondled for our whole life. Like, come on, dude. Like, it's not just, everything's going to be fine. Don't worry. You can make the best of your life. Just think positively. No, I'm sorry. No.
Yeah.
We're not going to wait.
If this is not a biblical apocalypse, I'm going to have to, a lot of people got to be put against a wall. It's that simple.
Mm-hmm.
And if there's no biblical God, if end times aren't soon. So I guess if the law of the world is you slaughter the wicked with your own bare hands, bro, and everyone figures out the earth is flat, all the righteous will be slaughtering these people with their bare hands.
Yeah, but the only issue with that is that first of all, we're incredibly outnumbered, and so we're hosed. And then the problem is that the flat earthers are happy here. Like a lot of them are just like, whatever, it's all good, and like that's
true. They're mostly a peaceful bunch.
Yeah, I'm not even recommending doing any of that, but it's just like it's not going to get to that level. And the thing that's weird that people should understand is that they don't need the ball earth to control us because they already control us through central banking. And so this ball earth thing has to serve another purpose just strictly besides control. It has to be on a spiritual level, and a humbling, because like God literally taught us a lie for our majority of our life. So, and it has to be something related to the end times. It has to be. There's no way.
Counterpoint. When people, I agree that it has to be, it has to be attached to the end times, and I agree it is the end times. This is purely, I guess, mental masturbation, but it's speculative. Like if it weren't the end times, you don't need. I think the globe is super important because, before people all accepted the globe, the Jews would the small hats who run the world who would bring nations into deep debt. They would after a certain point when the royalty of those nations when their debt became extremely insoluble, they would ally with the peasants and get the peasants to pogrom the Jews, and then the debt would be wiped clean, and then things would just reset again.
Yeah.
Those people back in the day, the majority all believed in God. They're able to unify with their upper classes and say, okay, we're done, and we just start again according to our own local standard. On this globe, that doesn't seem so. It seems like everyone, because there's no God and people don't believe in God, they believe that the financial system is the objective eye that rules over the world and keeps track of what's what instead of God.
Mm-hmm.
It might not be clear exactly what I'm saying because it is fuzzy.
But FEB, the reason I know we can't bounce back from this is because all these corporations are just useless. It's different if we were living off the land. I don't think I would be as hardcore of an end times guy if there was at least a chunk of people who lived off the land, but these corporations are totally useless. And so the reset would mean that all these buildings with all these like pointless companies, what are they going to do? Like afterwards, like, oh yeah, we'll just kind of reset, kill everybody off, and then we'll like start up a cell phone company again. Like that's why I think that this is pretty much it.
I think your intuition is accurate on that point, and I agree with that.
I think that there's just so many useless things that people are spending money. God ultimately is spending money on. It's trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars that it's and these companies are so distant from basic human needs that we got to be in those times. Like God is just, I would say, flexing his last muscle, the things that he can invent and all the military stuff. And man, good riddance too. Because like this whole system is just completely insane. Like no one's doing anything productive except everybody's laboring to be enslaved more and more.
Yeah.
But Skyfly Bree, you're wondering what my name, Mind of God, is not an arrogant statement. It's just the fact that we originate there, man. It's not that. It's like, what if you called your name, I don't know, your home, like Houston, Texas. I live in Houston. What if your handle was called Guy from Houston? It's the same thing. I could call my channel a guy who lives in Houston or a guy who grew up in Canada. I just choose to take my origin back to the very beginning. And we all originated from the mind of God. If God exists, it's just by definition. Again, it's causality. It's just basic logic. There's nothing offensive about that. I'm not claiming to understand all of it. The Bible says in many places we can't. But that's where we return. That's a fact. That has to be. However you describe that, the human mind is like, you can think of it as a spirit. People call it your heart. It's all those kind of things. And so that the mind of God is the spirit of God. It's the creative force, however you say it. So it's not offensive.
It's like if you named your channel the Logos channel,
yeah,
or something.
Same thing. Yeah.
Not that you're saying that everything that you say is Logos.
Yeah.
You're saying that you prize that as the highest virtue. I do.
Yeah. And to me, it's the best vantage point too. It's like God's not offended if you are sitting next to somebody who's a painter or does something very incredible, you'd ask him, hey, like, how'd you make that? That's kind of amazing. Like, we probably would not be able to do it ourselves, but you'd be like, wow, that's kind of amazing. So we look at what he's made, and if God allows us to interact with him, I believe through Jesus Christ, what are you going to ask him? Like, what other questions are you going to ask him? Like, hey, like, what should I wear, a red shirt today or a blue shirt? Like, what do you mean? You ask God serious questions like, hey, like, this is amazing. You know, like, you made an earth, you put people on it, you fashioned a spirit in them. Like, what else are you doing? You know, like, that's pretty impressive. So that's a good angle to interact with an infinite entity. Trust me, as much as people think that God's dumb, he's not dumb, and he doesn't like dumb questions. You know, I'm sorry, that's not going to work anymore. We're way past that. And I'm not saying that to be arrogant, but a lot of us are way, 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 way past that.
Based. Yeah, that's based. I'm with it.
But yeah, man, that's good to hear. I think that it's kind of scary though, man, but I think that we're close, you know, to it. I think we're close to something big.
When I was doing the Hebrew word study, the word of God in Hebrew is Dabar Yahweh, Dabar Elohim.
Mm-hmm.
And so the Psalm 19, and also the word for honor is Kabod. So in Psalms 19, it says the heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament shows its handiwork, which is Hashamayim Sefarim Kabod Elohim.
Mm-hmm.
So the heavens declare the glory of God. And it says also, it says in Proverbs 25 verse 2, which is a Psalm of Solomon recorded by King Hezekiah, whose father was King Ahaz, who was the king when the sign happened with the woman with child and so on.
Mm-hmm.
King Hezekiah recorded this this proverb from Solomon, which says, "It is the glory of God to conceal a thing, and the glory of kings to search out a matter," which that's how it's translated into King James Version.
Mm-hmm.
However, the word a thing and a matter are both the same word in the Hebrew, which is dabar. And dabar is always, which means the word. Or anytime you hear the word of God, it's the dabar Yahweh or dabar Elohim.
Okay.
So the word of God, or logos in the Greek, right? Logos. So the proverb in Hebrew is the glory. So hakabod Yahweh reket dabar, and then harakar dabar, and then it says ha kabod malakim kabod malek patar dabar. Basically, so the words dabar to search out the thing, to search out the word.
Okay.
Okay, it's the glory of God to conceal a matter. It's the glory of God to conceal the word, And it says that the glory of God, it says the heavens declare the glory of God, the firmament shows its handiwork.
Mm-hmm.
So Hezekiah, he was searching the heavens for the glory of God, which is concealed in the heavens, which declare the glory of God. So the king who recorded this was a king who understood directly from the consequences of his father's failure to search the heavens for the signs in the heavens. That were relevant to his kingship. So the fact that this has to end in less than 7 years, bro, that's so dead on.
Mm-hmm.
And
that was amazing, dude. I looked at it, I Googled it, and more people have thought about that, and I never even considered that. Like, that's amazing.
The 7 years thing?
Yeah, just the fact that God would use things in the quote heavens to narrate, you know, earthly. Yeah, I mean, that's cool.
It also lends some credence to the notion of predestination, because the ordinances of heaven, they're predictable, they're algorithmic. Yeah, Jupiter's retrograde as it is, so from the jump it's all. But there's an 80-day window in which the woman conceiving with child, and that connecting to Christ, and that connecting to Revelation 12 sign, that had to have worked out exactly that way, and it had to have been that way from the beginning. So people are talking about predestination being absurd or whatever. That, not really.
No, it's all over the Bible for sure, 100%.
And when I was talking to my friend about, my friend who is a Calvinist, who otherwise up to that point I would have thought that predestination was an absurd notion. He actually persuaded me that the notion of free will in like the pure sense, and like the sense that we think that, at least that I thought of it and experienced it as a default mode of understanding myself and people, as we're all just free agents to do as we will, and then we make choices and all that stuff. When I think about it, the notion of free will didn't come up until it's a product of modernity and the Enlightenment. That's where you get the idea of like every person has rights, and a person has to pursue their happiness and whatever.
God's getting squeezed out, kind of thing. Yeah, I guess.
Yes.
Yeah, big time. Yep.
So it's a product. When I think about the fruits of that, or at least the tree of the notion of free will as it's understood conventionally today, and as I was indoctrinated into this view by virtue of my American education. This is actually, it's like you said, it's squeezing God out of the picture in order to make room for my agency.
Yeah.
And the product is what? Lifestyle marketing at the end of the day, and trannies.
Yeah, I know it's hard for people to accept this, but God took himself out of the equation, and obviously it's a function of people's actions. I'm not trying to excuse collective behavior, but we'd have to believe that when God made the flat earth, he also made the ball earth deception, because a part of it is optical limitation. So, and the mark of the beast, all these things he must have architected from the beginning. Yes. And he just had a reason for it. How, like, why would he choose to do it that way? Why would he first make people and then make this choice? But a lot of we don't know. But what FEB is getting at is that there has been a gradual, and I would say it's just way more obvious now, where God is taken out, of really every discussion. And the crazy thing is, the reality is, like, when you look around, we should really acknowledge God literally everywhere, like in our buildings, people, the sky, the stars. He wouldn't just make it by accident. It's like, oh yeah, whatever, just let those kind of drift over there, do whatever they want, like that. That wouldn't make sense. We don't even do that as humans.
That's the dark implication of this, because he designed our eyes and the equator. That's the thing. The equator is 24,901 miles in circumference. All right. Mm-hmm. So with if that's the equator, then a globe, if the Earth were a globe, the curvature would be 0.666 feet per mile squared, and the tropics, whether on a globe, would actually be 23.4 degrees. 23.4 degrees, which is 66.6 degrees. The tilt. So the tilt is, in fact, the tropics are 66.6. So he designed the equator in order that it would be capable of being creating. He made our eyes and the Earth capable of accepting such a deception. It's just plausible enough. Yeah. So he didn't have to make it this way.
Yeah, I agree.
It's not as if it's not just the work of the Satanists you just found. No, man, it's intentionally that plausible.
It's deep. Yeah, for sure. And it's like, that is one thing that's very, very important, because there are some technical things. Then they just put a massive amount of people who push it, and I would say push it blindly. Carlos, we had a good conversation today, but he won't pursue a unique solution, because once a person does, it'll become back flat, like it is. And so I don't know if he's doing it on purpose or not, but
my intuition is that man's doing it on purpose, bro. That's my intuition. He feels if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. At the heavenly gates, I'll concede and I'll say sorry. I'm sorry, Carlos, but I've been doing this for 3.5 years, maybe 3 years, arguing with people about this, presenting this idea. And anytime I hear someone talk like that, and I can't even tell you what specific things in his cadence and reasoning, it's not normal. It's not normal to perpetually engage in that debate and then stay at that level.
To be fair, I think there are a lot of people whose job depended on it. Some literally might actually being paid to defend it, because they're in the hangouts every day.
That's what I'm saying.
So, yeah, I would say the only hope, and this actually sort of makes sense why God has an elect and then a tribulation, because people aren't going to just get away with that. Like, I needed it for my job, so I just lied, yada, yada, yada. No, God's like, okay, if you really are serious, he's going to shake them. He's not just going to be like, oh, okay, yeah, you're my elect, I'm going to pop you out of baller, your lies. No, God's like, he's going to send people through that. I would just say, for people who have common sense, don't go through unnecessary pain. For what? it's just after that, it's just death for the entire world. So
as someone who knows better, I have to avoid profane and vain babbling. Like, that's the occasion. Like, when sometimes globe earth Christians will say, well, let's not talk about the shape of the earth because it says avoid profane and vain babblings of science falsely proclaimed.
Yeah.
But no, you don't understand. That's about you. But actually, since the letters in the Bible is written to the church, which presumably is something more approximating us, it's about dealing with people like Carlos.
Yeah.
So they talk about it's a globe, and then they have other things to say. It's just like, well, you think the earth is a globe, man. So like,
come on.
Whatever you say is a vain babbling. It doesn't matter what you have to say.
It's pretty important, man. Come on. Like, anybody who says, oh, what doesn't matter, shouldn't argue. I'm like, come on, dude. For me, it was profound because now I read the Bible literally. I'm like, yeah, like this is literally going to happen like this if we keep seeing those signs, It's like, it's amazing. It's very powerful.
I read the Bible as fact. I read the Bible as true. It's
like it's a movie. It's a story literally playing out, and we're part of it. I would say I would doubt many, possibly none of the elect are ball earthers. I don't think that that's the case. I don't see how that's possible because they're told that they're not liars. I could see some of the elect being non-virgins because they could have been virgins in a past life, maybe. But I would never say, I don't think that any of the elect are ball earthers. They can't. So that doesn't mean that we're better as flat earthers, but we're definitely a better position with God, holding more truths. Yes. And then if we act on them, of course, but pushing ball earth like Carlos does, like a lot. Like
that's H&E as hell. And if he's not paid by the federal government, he's just straight up an agent of Satan.
What's crazy though, FEB, is a lot of us have moved past the ballers. We know that it's just for comedy. We're worried about the flat earthers now as being agents. So we know almost all the ball earthers are agents, like 99.9999% of them. There might be one out of 10,000 that are just honestly clueless about it.
Right.
But now we're worried about the Mark Sargents and the freaking those people.
I'm not even worried about them because they're clearly agents. And if they're a ball earther and they haven't accepted Christ and they're still arguing instead of just starting their own cult or whatever, then that's the thing. Globe earth Christians that are honestly globe earthers, they just drop the art. What they say is they go, I don't want to talk about it anymore. It doesn't matter.
Yeah,
they don't show up to argue with you about it. And that's why I asked the question directly. Is there anything in the Bible that persuades you of what you think? And he said, no. I say, is there anything in reality that persuades you? And the answer is no. Okay, then why with us? Go somewhere else.
People in real life that I mentioned this to, they don't talk about it anymore. That's
exactly. They let it go.
Normal people. They don't talk about it because they know that it's not going to work. Like if you just point at a building and ask them what direction is that moving, they'll just walk away. And
exactly
that's what it is. Like it's not moving. And so those are normal people. For sure.
But agents are paid to get punched in the face over and over.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, that's what I was saying. A lot of people, like I told my people at my last job, I was a flat earther, and it was awkward after that because like they know that. Well, what are we going to talk to this kid about? Like politics.
He's on a different planet.
Yeah,
he's not even on a planet.
Yeah, and I'm not saying this to get pity, but it's like a lot of people's jobs depending on being a ball earther, for sure.
Much of my gym now is flat earthers because I won't stop talking about it.
Oh, nice. That's good. Good.
A couple of them have even gotten saved. And the rest are, one of them is kind of like he's so caught up in his indigenous Lao religion of like Buddhism or something that he can't really bring himself to publicly admit it without, I don't know exactly what's going on with him, but I think there's something.
Truth,
huh?
It's a powerful truth, powerful truth.
Yeah, I think he'll be one of those people who have to go through the mark of the beast period, but I think he'll go through it.
One thing, FEB, do you notice that the Zaboks and the guys, they do this, like Shalom with the
Shalom, yeah, that
like that, and then the Mark Sargent and those agents also do the flat, like that. Yeah, I find that kind of curious, but we have a question in the chat. Yaz Will is storing say, why did Jesus tell people a number of times that generation would see the coming of the Lord? If you take the Bible literal. So he's speaking to his disciples, and pretty much now I realize you have to understand reincarnation to understand the Bible, not just that verse, but a lot of other ones. He knows that they don't know this maybe necessarily, but he's telling them, and they probably asked him offline, but they didn't record it because he didn't want that to be out there. He doesn't want a lot of people to know this, but he knew that they were going to be reinfused into human bodies. So not just John the Baptist and Moses, it's very likely that the disciples are walking around earth, not just in America, but they could be anywhere. So
yeah,
they will see it visually. It's not symbolic. It's a proof, I would say, of reincarnation.
I would say I heard that before. I heard you explain that doctrine, and here's where I'm at with it, bro. It's that's entirely logical. Mm-hmm. That makes complete sense, and that rounds off that particular debate. Mm-hmm. And I'm not going to gainsay against it because it could be true, but then you'd have to interpret a different. Let's say, I think there's something that's appointed every man to die, and then thus and thus, which is the typical argument against reincarnation. But I'm sure you consider this one and have an apologetic against it. And I'll invite you to propose that. That setting that aside, the only reason I'm not going to say yes, this is my doctrine, what I believe to be true, is on the basis of ignorance, one, and fear that I'd be presenting something as true simply because it makes sense to me at the moment, given the limited knowledge that I have.
Yeah.
It makes sense given that proposition.
I took my foot off of it, and I didn't know for sure, but now I realize for me to share anything, I have to, it made sense to me anyway from the beginning, but for me to teach Revelation with the way that I have to buy into reincarnation and then a lot of other things, really. But yeah, it makes sense, and John the Baptist, again, if for a person who can understand my two witnesses, even if you're a Pastor Anderson, who's like a mainstream guy, he believes that there are literal two witnesses, but they're going to be in Israel. He believes in reincarnation too, because they're back here, they're not living from that time. So indirectly, these mainstream pastors are teaching reincarnation, but they won't word it that way because they know people will get uncomfortable. But people like me, we teach it more freely. Not excessively, because you can get carried away with it for sure. But yeah, it has to be. If there are two humans who are witnessing in the end times, they have to be some spirit, unless they're two new spirits, which is possible. But I don't think there's a reason to believe that.
And spirit goes into body, which is carnos, so reincarnation. So they're the spirits that were already exist in the past in different corpuses, bodies, and they are put into new bodies in the future, and they are the same spirit. It stands to reason that given that, which is that definition of reincarnation, which is not an unreasonable definition of reincarnation, that would be a substantiation of that particular doctrine, which if expanded to include pretty much every other person who was alive at that time, or at least all the elect and whatever, something along those lines, however wide or narrow you want to make that net, it stands to reason that would be how this generation will see. So I'm saying Proverbs 18:13 on that. I'm saying that makes sense.
It doesn't. I would say sin also doesn't make sense unless we're reincarnated, because how can you have one life and then quote live it and then just wait, I guess, until the end times or final judgment? It's it only makes sense really as well generationally and that type of thing. So again, it actually leaves more questions to be asked about that, but it's not outlandish, and certainly this is why if you're not into the book of Revelation, I would say now the entire Bible becomes very cloudy, because you will not know how to interpret those verses. And so that's why, if I'm right, and I don't say this in a proud way, but if I am right, I'm very thankful for it, because now the entire Bible makes sense to me in terms of the big picture.
There is something satisfying about the proposition on consideration, and it being that said, again, it being satisfying to my intellect, and it also making sense within the domain of that doomsday witness thing. That for me though is not a sufficient basis for me to accept something as true, especially when it runs so counter to things I've been programmed not to accept as true. So I would need more time and evidence and consideration on the matter, and really even beyond that, I would need divine revelation on the issue. both of which neither will. Yeah, that's up to God to let me really know that one. But all I can say is, if someone said that's retarded and stupid, I would say I don't think that's retarded or stupid.
Mm-hmm. It would be if there's only like one thing, like if it was just John the Baptist is Elijah. I think that would be challenging to stretch it, you know, to all those other.
Art thou Elijah?
Yeah, that's the most obvious one, but that doesn't mean that it happens for everybody. But it also does, to some extent, give a person a foot in the door to examine whether that is being applied. And then I would say the Revelation 1:7, where those who pierced him shall see him, shows that it's on the left-hand side, for the whole left-hand side. So that's a pretty
that pierced him. That is true too.
So it's not just John the Baptist and Elijah. It's God's entire, or at least in the very least, those people, those 5, 10, 15, 100,000 people that physically pierced him, in the very least, they're reincarnated.
This is very compelling.
Yeah, it's for real. Like, if people have deja vu, they feel like they've seen their life play out somehow. They feel like they've already lived here. I believe that before we're in this body, we see a flash of our life. Just like at the end, we see a flash. I think before we're here, we know what we're getting into. You know, God doesn't just like chuck us in somewhere and be like, whatever, just go deal with it. And I don't know if we get an explanation, but we see our judgment. You know, again, if I don't know this, but Ezra second Ezra sort of kind of implies this kind of thing. But again, there's a lot of things going on that are very mysterious. But it's don't be afraid if people watch my video and see reincarnation, be like, oh man, what? Like, this guy's lost his mind. Like, just be patient with it. Yeah.
So I'm entertaining the discussion for discussion's sake, because it's a well-considered idea. And also for the sake, I don't even want to say that. I'm not even going to politic about it. I'm entertaining the idea because it's reasonable. There's something to it. There's dabar in it. It also it also adds to a dimension of God, of his potential justness, in the sense that if everyone is just like, so before Christ, before the spread of the gospel, everyone was just living. Most people were just living as heathens. A very small percentage of the population ever got to hear about the God of creation, and the rest, who weren't Israelites or had never heard the gospel, they're just kind of just better hope for the best and for things that aren't even their fault. And if there's a reincarnation scenario, at least just one, scenario in which everyone gets kind of shot again to be under the conditions that would allow them a convenient salvation, whether through faith or something like this, that would be pretty fair.
Yeah. I think it honestly relates as well to like the chosen people and all that, because it's hard to think about really a lot of this unless we know first maybe why, but also how God conditions a spirit. Like, it's just not anything we can relate to, because all we know is like our human body. And so if we knew how a little bit, then we would kind of get a sense for why it's important for God to do this over multiple generations. But I don't think we'll have the answers. I think that I do think that it's hidden, just like Jesus being dark skinned is hidden to a lot of people, just like flat earth, unfortunately, is hidden to a lot of people, but it's obvious for some of us. So if it ends up being true, I consider it a gift to help us understand the Bible. And I would say it's very difficult to understand the book of Revelation unless you're open to it. I would say it's impossible. There's no real point, actually. The first couple chapters will just seem odd.
I've developed some doubts about our man, Paul.
Who's that?
Paul, the guy who was on the way to Damascus, who wrote the letters.
Okay.
So there's a verse in the Bible, and it started on this point. It says, "It's a shame for a man. Does nature not show that it's a shame for a man to have long hair?" And then he goes on to make another number of proclamations. It started with that, and I was like, all right, so let all matters be established by 2 or 3 witnesses. There's no other witness in Scripture for that proposition, and yet that proposition has become mainstream church, at least Christian culture and doctrine for the past X amount of years.
Mm-hmm.
And long hair, however, in contrast, nature doesn't show that. Males grow hair faster and thicker than women do, except when they age, they may go bald, but that doesn't mean you need to cut your, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
It says in the law that you shouldn't make baldness upon your head. It says in the then there's Samson, there's the Nazarite vows and all that stuff, and you can say that. But nature doesn't show this, and in any case, there's no place in the Bible where any prophet makes an appeal to some supposition about the natural order of things in order to justify a proposition. It's either by divine revelation or the law, which is divine revelation, or it is simply not. This method of argumentation is a Greek method of argumentation, which has no, in order to justify a point and a doctrine which has no other substantiation in Scripture anywhere else, which is pretty bizarre to do. And then furthermore, I was like, okay, well, is this part of Greek culture? I said, yeah, it's part of Greek. I found out that's part of Greek culture at that time, in Roman culture, to have a short haircut. Okay, that's fine, but how did this become a doctrine, and why is Paul writing things without having the justification of 2 or 3 witnesses? Why is he doing this? Well, either Paul's letters are being taken out of context and used as scriptures within the having authority and jurisdiction outside of what Paul intended.
Yeah.
Or there's something really wrong with Paul. And I started looking into Paul's testimony in the book of Acts.
Mm-hmm.
Paul, at first, he was with 2 men, and then there was a light, and they all saw the light, but only Paul heard the voice, and the other men did not hear a voice. And the other testimony, the men didn't hear a voice, and Paul heard a voice, and they all saw the light. And in the third testimony, in the first testimony, the men stood seeing him, were standing seeing the light, but not hearing a voice.
Mm-hmm.
And in the third testimony, they were all knocked down to the ground, whereas in the first testimony, only Paul was on the ground, because it says the other men stood standing. Now, what does the Messiah say to Paul? He says, "Paul, why dost thou persecute me? Why it is hard for you to kick against the pricks?" The pricks is a word. It means like the goads of a whip of a horse.
Okay.
It's hard for you to kick against, and you're a horse. You're kicking against the whip.
Yeah.
Okay. But this is a Greek saying, a Greek idiom derived from a play called Bacchae by a Greek poet. And Bacchae, the character who says it is Dionysus, a god who happened to die who happened to be crucified on December 25th and rose again and all this stuff. You know how the other religions have their false sun god things.
Yeah.
So Dionysus falls within the canon of those gods, the pantheon of those gods with that attributes, and is a Greek god of wine and all that stuff. So Paul is seeing a bright light, has this testimony that's ostensibly inconsistent in some way, in some significant ways. He gets a revelation from God making references to a culture that Jesus never made reference to in the past. And what else? And Paul's writing. He's writing, advocating for. How should I put this, man? There are things about Paul. Either his jurisdiction is more limited than the Christian church makes it out to be, or Paul is straight up. I don't want to go too far with this one, but if not for his weird double talking about the law and stuff, we wouldn't have a lot of the confusion that makes up the past 2,000 years of Christian history.
Yeah.
And
I used to have beef with him back in the day because I felt like so many people who I didn't like the way they presented the gospel used him more than Jesus. So I was always like, dude, we would have been better off without a lot of those books. But I kind of felt that as well. But again, for people now looking back, we needed that, because the Bible is being hooked into by a lot of fake Christians. And so they need this, salvation without works and all these stupid arguments. I see people debating a bunch of nonsense. Like, I saw somebody debating Pastor Anderson about like faith versus works and Calvinist, Armenian, and all these different debates, about theology and all this kind of stuff and like salvation. They don't even know what salvation means. And so like they're debating all these different, faith without works and all that. And yeah, Paul's writing is used to support a lot of that. So again, I'm not saying it's not useful, but the Bible, God of it, is using it in many ways as a delusion, for people. And so we needed a bunch of stuff, if he just said, this date, this will happen, these are the people that, that would be nice, but it looks like that's part of the mystery. But yeah, I do felt like he did write I would say a disproportionate amount of the New Testament, but that's God's.
Yeah. So all that stuff about the law. So let's say, assuming the best of Paul, they're actually making no assumptions about Paul, because at this point it doesn't matter to me.
Yeah.
Because my faith is not tied in Paul being my dude.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. It's testimony. I had a debate with another friend of mine. It's like, let's say I write a letter to somebody else and it's spiritual in nature. That to me is just as authoritative as the Bible, as long as it's consistent with, the God of it. But so I treat every book the same. Like any book that comes in front of me, I'll examine it the same way, whether it's in the Bible or not.
I think that's wise, where two or more are gathered.
Mm-hmm.
So Paul, he says all this stuff. Apparently, if you read it the way any Christian has for the past 2,000 years, or a lot of Christians has, the law is done away with. Eat all the pigs you want and worship on Christmas, or do whatever the hell, and it's all okay because it's not about works or whatever. And maybe to some degree, there's a way in which you can say it's not about works, and I agree with that. And there's a way you can say it's not about works, and I think that you can go way too far with what's meant by that.
Yeah.
That's out of what's reasonable to be understood to be meant by that. And I think so much of the Christian Catholic works, not works, or whatever, that debate is hinged upon some ambiguity and equivocations about that word. In any case, Paul he could be writing in any way about these things. And then in the book of Acts, he comes to Jerusalem, and he meets up with James and the other apostles. I think just James, whoever's with him. And Paul says, look, he tells about all of the Gentiles that he's managed to win over to the faith, and all the great things that God has done among the Gentiles.
Mm-hmm.
And then James said, yes, well, we have here thousands of Jews which believe in Christ and are also zealous of the law. And they're also hearing from the people in Asia Minor, the churches in Asia, that you're telling Jews who are among the Gentiles, they don't need to be circumcised or keep the law. And they're getting real suspicious of you, Paul. We're starting to worry that you're not really of the faith.
Yeah.
They're starting to worry but we know that's not true, right, Paul?
Yeah.
So before you even gives Paul an opportunity to answer, so we have some men with us who have a vow on them, and they're going to go down to the temple and purify themselves, pay for their charges and your charges. You do the same, so that these people who are accusing you of this thing will know. He uses the word know. Will know that the accusations being leveled against you aren't true. And Paul goes along with this, presumably. And there's two. I've heard people interpret this to mean. No, wait. I'll fast forward a little more. He goes down there. He's on the 6th day of ritual purification. Then he gets snatched out of the temple by the people who are accusing him of these things, and then they start trying him and before the courts. And then he says, "I believe." And the people who are accused of things are Sadducees, so they're in the position of hypocrisy themselves because they don't even believe in the resurrection. So he calls them out. It says, "You're saying I don't believe in the law of the Torah or the prophets. Y'all don't even believe in the resurrection. So how dare you accuse me of this? But let me assure you, even to the Pharisees, because it's not just Sadducees who are accusing them, it's Sadducees, Pharisees, and believers in Christ who are Jews, who are zealous of the law." He says, "But in any case, I believe everything written in the law and the prophets. So leave me alone. Stop accusing me. And you can't prove that I'm saying the things you're saying I'm saying."
Yeah.
He doesn't pull out Ephesians 5 or anything like that, or Galatians or whatever. And then he says, "I appeal unto Caesar because I'm a Roman citizen." And then he gets another appeal. And then in the Roman courts, he says, "They can't prove anything they're saying against me." What they're saying he's saying is what the Christian church interprets him to be saying, i.e., preaching against the law. So this is where it gets even more ambiguous. So Paul, he says, I've preached not a single thing against the law.
Yeah.
I believe everything in the law, and you can't prove the things that you're saying I did. So leave me alone. And apparently, so James said, James understood that Paul was not preaching against the law.
Yeah.
Or James was trying to find a convenient way to get Paul out of his hair and out of the picture.
Mm-hmm.
Or that, or I've heard this interpretation, especially from like the Robert Breaker.
But wait, FEB, just want to make one comment on this, just in line with what we were saying earlier. It's like, if we look at the history where the Israelites had ability to practice the law, and do all the things that Jesus described that he wanted them to do, in order for him to dwell amongst them and protect them. Now we're talking about a transition throughout human history where now they're in captivities, they're under, other governments. They're some of their acts of worship and stuff are being outlawed, or all that literally not allowed potentially. And some of them literally are just forgetting, like they don't keep the customs anymore because time has passed and their kings have like disregarded the law. So now, again, I'm not saying I may not be exactly talking about the point that you're making, but there is a transition where the law looks like it's being summarized into love God with all your heart and then love your neighbor. I can't say exactly when that necessarily happened, but that has to be because the evil has increased. And obviously in the days that we live in now, where it's anti-God, it's anti-everything aspect of the law. And so that's where I think it's a bit confusing for people in Paul's time writing about the law and its importance and all that, but then also noticing, I would guess, that there's a transition happening and it's now hopefully like the end of it. And he's writing in that sort of in-between time. I would say for us now, we know that the law, like we don't even know what the law is. Try practicing some of them. It's not going to happen. You'll get like laughed at. And that's just the way the world is now. I'm not saying it's not important, but it's now more and more.
You're not safe by keeping the law.
Yeah. And that's why, and I'm not saying that the God of the Bible doesn't care about the law, but when you read prophetic verses, all of them say, return to me with a humble heart. What can your garments offer? What can your sacrifices offer anymore? Return with a humble heart, with kindness, and take care of the widows and the poor. That's the vibe. I'm not saying every single verse, but just think of it as common sense. It has to be. So I think Paul was caught in a difficult time because now we have like hindsight. Like we look back and we see, like, first of all, we know we're living in a movie now. I hope a lot of people know that, but we know that the law has been degraded from its full following, the King David and during all that time, to what the hell is going on now? Like he was somewhere in between kind of thing. So
I agree with what you're saying, and in this respect, if this is true, I sympathize with Paul.
Yeah,
very much. Given that if my letters and my communications with my Gentile peers, whom I've explained that the earth is flat and have come to believe this and are now sorting a lot of other things out as well.
Yeah,
my communications with them were seen and heard of by the Hebrew peers that I have, even though that they are okay with Gentiles and all this stuff. They would think that I didn't take the Bible, the commandments seriously, because I understand that they come from a place where they've been celebrating Christmas their whole lives.
Yeah.
What I'm saying, and what if I say like, yo, don't worry about all this stuff, deal with the fundamental things.
Yeah.
Like understand some basics, and then you'll figure out Christmas. Because if you got the spirit, you're not going to have much communion with Christmas for very long.
Yeah, agreed.
If all they hear is my letters out of context, they're going to think I'm preaching against the law. So I can see that could be what's going on with Paul. And I can see that, there's a lot of stuff that could be going on with Paul.
Yeah, I think he's feeling, he doesn't know everything either, and he's humble in some of his writing. He says that he's figuring out things just like we all are. I would say he does. I'm gonna read through it again soon, so I'll maybe have better feedback on the specifics. But it's a tough time. It's a tough time to understand really what's going on. And then there's people who are like in different parts of the place, and they're all scattered, so you can't even really get them together and like speak to them face to face. Like we have FaceTime now and phones and live streams, and so he's writing these letters to people, and they're in the midst of people who are doing all types of who knows what they're doing and all that kind of stuff. So it's like it's a tough position. But yeah, I mean, I would say even to this day, the challenge that I have with a lot of people, like groups like Adam Abbott, like the Hebrews, GMS, and those people, they're talking about the law as if it still applies in the same effect as it did, and it doesn't. I'm sorry, like we cannot do very many of those. Like adultery is not handled that way, sin of homosexuality, all the different things about lying. You have to lie to survive here. I don't care what people say. They're not sensitive to the spirit if they don't understand that, unless they don't work in corporate America and they live in some farm or something. But you have to lie. You cannot tell the truth. People ask me, what are you going to do 5 years from now, 10 years from now? I can't say I'm hoping that America gets blown up, which is the truth. But or I'm hoping the mark of the beast. I hope God returns. They ask us to brag about our strengths and all that. We can't say anything about God. So that's leaving God out of anything is Antichrist, and that's what we're required to do. So that's why I think, again, we're at the end. This is the fullness of the world being against God. And I'm talking about the entire world, everybody. So I believe God can only be found at the individual level. No alphabet soup, no corporation, LLC or whatever. But it looks like he's giving it out free. I hope.
Yeah, that's roughly my intuition about the situation overall.
Yeah, it's coming down.
It's not a crew. You can't find a club, then they all have the right doctrines, and you press the button, and then if you believe,
no, he's showing me that everywhere, and now I'm comfortable with that. I'm like, good. I won't even give them a chance. Like, just it's okay. I was like a bit weirded out. Like, why? Why not even a small group? Why not even one camp? Somewhere. It's like, and I was listening earlier to a group in Houston who spun off from GMF Houston, and now they're teaching on the street still, but it's like they were going into just nonsense. Like, I was just like, what? Oh my gosh! Like, even a group of two are saying a bunch of things that just they're ball earthers. I asked them, are they teaching that the earth spins and all this stuff? And I'm like, really? Like, oh my.
Is Yazbel Soaring a globe earther or a flat earther?
I think he's a flat earther.
Okay, that's based. Is he on the 12 tribes chart thing, or is he just think the?
No, I don't think so. I think I don't actually know too much what his story is, but he believes that we're living in Revelation 20, which scares me. I believe we're living in Revelation 12, like we brought out last time, where God's elect are being flooded with lies. But I don't know where he gets that from. Revelation 20, 19 and 20 is everybody's on the left-hand side. God is just destroying everybody with the mark of the beast. That is the wrath of God. 17 and 18 is America getting destroyed, and 16 are the plagues during the Great Tribulation period. So from, I would say, chapter 15 onwards, the book of Revelation is exactly sequential, and everything up to that is a little bit mixed up on purpose. But 15 forward is the two witnesses, the plagues, the America getting destroyed, and then the wrath of God, and then the kingdom of heaven being established. And so it follows the sequence of a quote normal book, only from Revelation 15 onwards. And so 14 is great because it actually gives the sequence before it goes through the exact sequence.
I'm switching to my computer.
And so I'm that just froze, but yeah, so it's kind of scary, but if what I shared in those videos recently happened, and especially if you're a flat earther, you should already kind of have the foot on the gas already about God paying us a visit. It looks like this thing's going to heat up, and then if you add on the financial stuff, if you add on the madness going on, just moral wise, morality. Yeah, I mean, it's got to be close. I just don't see how it could be in a future generation. That's not to be arrogant, but I'm like, who would grow up in this generation and care about the Bible? Like, I just don't get it. Like, the people that do now, like, we're kind of barely struggling to make sense of our life and correlate it with the Bible. But 50 years from now, who's going to be where are the Bibles even going to be? Like, they're going to be in some digitized form that have been AI'd to death. Like, who knows what they're going to say?
The New Age Hillsong Christian Church is way darker than I thought it was. I thought when I first I came into knowledge of Christ 3 years ago, maybe a little more than that.
Okay.
Maybe it's 2019, so 2016, 2017, probably closer to the end of 2016.
Okay.
And
they're brutal, man.
I thought that I was just being a hipster about shit when I was like, oh, I'm just too cool for these normies. And when they weren't hip to the small hats or Revelation, or whatever. And I was like, but deep down, they're so nice, they're so pleasant, they can get along, so they must have the Holy Spirit. Now I'm seeing that the people who are in that world, they're so into New Age, and so they're really into New Age, deeply. And it's become so obvious now. They're into gay culture.
Yeah.
And
they're hanging out with Justin Bieber.
Dude, he was wearing lipstick and singing about eating babies.
Yeah. FEB, you know how you can tell those guys right off the bat, just like Ken Hovind. Anybody, and if I still like some of their music because it's like whatever, it gets my mind off of things. But anytime they're like, God, like you love me, like you were missing me and you came from heaven because I wasn't there. I'm saved. Like I can't wait to see you in heaven and all that. That's crazy. Like, we're never allowed to say that. That's crazy talk. Like we're tempted to say that sometimes because we groan for a better place, but to institutionalize that and make that part of our doctrine, that is not allowed.
It's like they're telling Yah what to think. They're telling.
Yeah, no, we don't even know where heaven is. Like trying
to clear that you're saying.
Yeah, we're not allowed to say that ever. And their music says that everywhere. And I was listening to a song by Mercy Me, I Can Only Imagine. And they're already describing like what they're going to do in God's presence. He's like, I'm not sure if I'm going to hug you or stand or like, dude, what do you mean you don't know what you're going to do? If you're in the presence of God, we would get destroyed. The Bible says that. If we are in God's presence without his mercy, I'm talking about the Most High, we'll evaporate. Like we can't be in his presence. And
was your father stern?
What's that?
Was your father relatively stern?
No, not at all.
So I was about to make a correlation to something about maybe Western parenting because my father was pretty stern.
Oh, okay.
I'm thinking that maybe these people imagine God in the way that they imagine their permissive parents or something.
Yeah.
I don't know, but if that conjecture doesn't work, then I'm gonna leave the conjecture to die.
Okay. So yeah, as Will is soaring, I'm not saying this to be rude, but like, we all used to think this, that he was saved at 15. No one is saved until it happens on earth. That is an earthly event. I want people to be very aware of that. That whole notion of salvation, the way it's taught in Christianity, is it's false. That we're not allowed to say that. No one is allowed to say that. No one is allowed to say they're on God's right-hand side until God declares it. That's what it is. That's not correct logically to say that, and definitely not biblically. And so I'm not saying this that I'm trying to say that I'm better than you and you're saved and I'm saved and you're not. No, none of us know. Until God declares it, I want people to be very aware of that. We've been brainwashed. And I would recommend watch my video on salvation that I just posted. Like, it's the same terminology used throughout the entire Bible. I'm not cherry picking verses. Salvation is described from beginning to end as an event in the end times for God's elect. That's what it is. And if you can accept this, it's by UFOs. So until you're actually taken, those people are saved. The other people will be, quote, saved, but we may have to go through tribulation. We may have to give up our life. But that group together is God's right-hand side. And then plus the people who've died who did not have to live in this retarded generation. All those people are God's right-hand side. So, but I get what you're saying. If you've appreciated the Bible, if you believed that it was true, if you hoped on it at that time, yeah, dude, that's beautiful, man. I would say that's amazing. And your hope is in the right place for sure. There's nowhere else to look. There's nowhere else to go. Where are we going to go? Islam, Hinduism, Buddhism. These people are fruitcakes. Nation of Islam. I used to think Nation of Islam was the truth for a while because I just didn't know he was the only person that was speaking truth was Louis Farrakhan. And then the funny thing is he kind of got me on the Hebrews. And then I would say now I kind of see past a lot of that. Not all of them. I think some of them are of the elect. Not all of them, but yeah. Just be very careful. And this is not, again, to one up you in any way. This is just to communicate with God in a way that he will expect us to understand. Because I don't want people to make silly mistakes when it comes to the Bible, me included. And I have for many years. I was like, I was saved. I used to go out hand gospel tracts. You need to accept Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior. I would tell that to my family and stuff. And they're like, what the hell's wrong with you? And like, they were actually right. They didn't know why they were right, but they were like, dude, what is wrong with you? And I had something wrong with me at that time. But Flat Earth has fixed it to a large degree. Now we know God is in charge of this entire movie from beginning to end, and he's controlling the time of everything. The cool thing about the God of the Bible is that he does use humble metrics. He does not care about Donald Trump and which way his hair's flapping in the wind or whatever's going on with his life. He cares about the poor, the elect, and then that's going to be the trigger for the end times. And that in and of itself, to me, makes God worthy to be worshipped, because look at who he cares about. That's amazing. And they already have the gospel. I want people to know that. They already have the gospel. It's us who are being awakened to the gospel, us individuals. The poor and all that, they already know God. They already know a lot. Yeah, man, this was good. I thought it was just funny hearing you poke at Carlos. So in a friendly way, that was good. But it looks like he might be a ball earther full life. But
yeah,
maybe he'll come
until the checks stop coming.
Yeah, there's too many evidences of flat water, man. I'm sorry, people. You can't hide from the fact that, and it's not gonna slow down. People are gonna find better, clearer days to see stuff way too far away. How many miles do they need to see? Like 50, 100? That's 20 miles of flat waters. That's a lot of flat water. So it's flat. And we're definitely not spinning.
That's true. I'll show you this.
Yeah.
I showed you this already. How the churches in Asia Minor are the exact shape of Pleiades.
Really?
So there's Ephesus, Smyrna, Pergamum, Thyatira, Sardis, Philadelphia, Laodicea.
Mm-hmm.
Can you see my screen here?
Yeah, I can. It's I see two images because it's the preview on the right.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I can see the blue lights.
Okay, so yeah, they're in the shape of the 7 churches of Asia.
Interesting.
And the book of Revelation describes the 7 candlesticks, the 7 angels, the 7 spirits, right?
Yeah.
And the 7 angels are often illuminate. They are often understood. The stars are understood oftentimes to be angels of some sort.
Yeah.
Having wills of their own.
Mm-hmm.
And Pleiades is a constellation mentioned multiple times, whether it be in Amos or Job in the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
It's very close to Orion, which is Orion in the Hebrew is called Kislev.
Okay.
Kislev. Let's see what I can get here.
But dude, that's kind of dope that this happens, because it's a cool thing. Just a quick point. Mm-hmm. When anybody watches Russian vids, he'll show that if you look at the Washington D.C. from top down, you'll see Masonic symbols that they implant into their quote property. It's cool that God does that as well. Obviously here on Earth, but also in the stars, which is his quote property. So it's kind of neat that we see that kind of everywhere.
Yeah, right. I'm trying to show Kislev, and my computer's being wonky. There we go. Kislev, no Kislev. Dang it. I'm just gonna type in Orion in Hebrew. Okay. So the 7 churches in Asia and Kislev. So Pleiades and Kislev are 2 stars that are mentioned perpetually. Over and over and over again in the Bible. And in Hebrew, Orion is Kislev. Kisel. There we go. And the month is called Kislev. Kisel in Hebrew means fool or idiot, the way Nimrod means you're being such a Nimrod.
Right.
Let's see if I can find this Bible hub. Oh, you're not seeing the thing I'm showing. Whoops.
No, I still see the Asia Minor.
I'm going to try this. I'm going to do this. Stop screen. Share screen. Your entire screen. Okay. Share. There we go. Now you see this, eh? Orion. Yeah. The large, bright constellation of 80 stars, 17 large ones cross the equinoctial line. The gigantic statue, the Arabs called it the giant, referring to Nimrod, the mighty hunter, who was fabled to have been bound in the sky for his impiety. Hebrews, Kessel, or the Fool, the name of the constellation consisting of about 80 stars. It renders it thus. It renders it, oh wow, the Vulgate renders it, but the LXX, renders it by Hesperus, the evening star of Venus or something. These things are of substance and they are biblical relevance. And next to And the other constellation that's mentioned, the other two are Pleiades and Arcturus, which are mentioned in the Bible, which happen to be, and the 7 churches have to be the shape of Pleiades, which is a 7-star constellation or a star formation, whatever you want to call it. So if you type in, what I was about to type in, Pleiades, 7-star, the luminaries of Asia. So the 7 luminaries of, let's try, I think his name is Epiphanes. Luminaries of Asia. The early church referred to the fathers within Asia Minor. They were referred to as referred to as luminaries. I think his name was Polycarp or Polycrates. I try to find proof of this. Polycrates. Christian testimony, beloved. Oh yeah, for in Asia, great luminaries have gone to their rest. And I think it's written by Eusebius, who recorded this. He was an early church guy. And in fact, I think it was Irenaeus who recorded it as such. As for us, then we scrupulously observe the exact day, neither adding nor taking away. He's talking about the Passover, because there's a debate about whether or not to keep the Passover or to keep Easter Sunday. Okay. In the early church, which caused the churches of Asia to break from Rome. So for in Asia, he says, the great luminaries have gone to their rest, who shall rise again in the day of the coming Lord, when he cometh with glory from heaven, and shall rise again with all the saints. I speak of Philip, one of the 12 apostles, who is laid to rest at Hierapolis, and his 2 daughters who arrived at an old age unmarried, and his other daughter also, who passed her life in the influence of the Holy Spirit and reposed at Ephesus. But this is all to say that the metaphor that was used to describe them was as luminaries, and not just this discourse, but in other letters. I don't want to go through the effort of bringing up again. I bring this up to say, so after the 7 years after the after the Revelation 12 sign, there's an eclipse that happens, and after 1 month after that eclipse, Jupiter, which is the king star in that Revelation 12 sign, ends up right next to the 7 churches in it ends up right next to the 7-star formation called Pleiades. Wow. With Venus right on top of it, with the sun right on top of it. And it talks about Jesus being the bright and morning star, wedded, who's met the bride. That's Revelation 22. That's the last book in Revelation. Yep. And that happens, Revelation 22, something happens in the sky in pretty miraculous fashion, undeniable fashion, less than a month after the eclipse that comes 7 years after the Revelation 12 sign across the United States. Whoa. That's crazy, dude. So this is actually pretty jaw-dropping, and I'll get it together as quickly as possible. Come on, bro. There we go. Bam. Yes. And this is it's a heavy duty app, so I understand if it's a little slow. I'll zoom out. How do I zoom out? That's right. Okay. Zoomed out too fast. Okay, then find Jupiter. Control F, J, U, T, Jupiter. I'm gonna zoom in now. Boop. Just a little bit. Here we go. Then I'm gonna change the date to it's 2024. The eclipse is on 4/8. So that you'll see there's gonna be a new moon. Sorry. You'll see that moon come by. And here's the eclipse. You see that? Right there. Okay. That's the eclipse. And then fast forward a few more days. Here's Jupiter. And here's Pleiades. Here's Jupiter here. And here's Pleiades. You can see my arrow, right? Mm-hmm. The red? Yeah. Oh, the red's, but can you see my mouse? Yeah, My mouth? Nah, you can't see it.
No, I can't.
Okay, but the eclipse, if you look at the sun, you'll see the eclipse right. You see the sun? Bam, that's the eclipse. So that marks a new moon, and depending on how you reckon the new moon to be the full moon or the new moon, up to you. But either way, right after the Passover is this sign.
Wow.
You have Jupiter. Here's the seven churches in Asia. The red cursor now is on Jupiter. Seven churches in Asia. You have Venus. You have Venus, the morning star, coming, getting closer and closer and closer. See if I can make it go faster than this. Can't make it go much faster than this. Oh, it's going fast enough. Jupiter is approaching. It's approaching. It's approaching. The sun is getting closer to Jupiter. And I'm just going to go straight to the date. The sun, Jupiter, and Uranus all conjunct. Sorry, the sun, Jupiter, and Venus and Uranus all conjunct on May 22nd. Let's say May 21st. All on Pleiades. May 22nd, yeah. All on Pleiades. All right underneath Pleiades with the sun. So that's actually 523. So I'm going to read the Bible verse that this correlates to, Revelation 22. Ooh, this is crazy. It says, and there shall be, there's interesting, there's other parts here, but it says, in this chapter, it says, and they shall see his face, and his name shall be in their foreheads, and there shall be no night there, they need no candle, neither the light of the sun, for the Lord God giveth them light, and they shall reign forever and ever. Yep. And he said unto me, these sayings are faithful and true, and the Lord God of the holy prophets sent his angel to show unto his servants the things which must shortly be done. Behold, I come quickly, and blessed is he that keepeth the sayings of this prophecy of this book. And I, John, saw these things and heard them, and when I heard them and seen, I fell down to worship for the feet of the angel which showeth me these things. Mm-hmm. I'm going to continue a little further down. Okay. I, Jesus, this verse 16. I, Jesus, have sent mine angel to testify unto you these things in the churches. Okay, so the Zedek, Jupiter is Christ, is also the church or whatever. It's a lot of things. Yeah. Is now at the church of Asia. I, Jesus, have sent mine angel to testify unto you these things in the churches. I am the root and offspring of David and the bright and morning star. And the Spirit and the bride say, come, and let him that heareth say, come, and let him that is athirst come, and whosoever will, let him take the water of life freely. For I testify unto every man that heareth the words of the prophecy of this book, if any man shall add unto these things, God shall add unto him the plagues that are written in this book. And if any man shall take away from the words of the book of this prophecy, God shall take away his part out of the book of life and out of the holy city and from the things which are written in this book. And he which testifieth to these things saith, surely I come quickly, amen. Even so, come, Lord Jesus, and the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ be with you all, amen. So yeah, the bright morning star with Zedek, which was Jesus in the Revelation 12 sign, conjuncted on top of the sun, right next to the seven churches of Asia.
Wow. That makes sense, even just why they're even mentioned, because one might even ask, why is the letters in the seven churches in Revelation, right? Because, there's prophetic aspects, but why are they the beginning, and kind of the focus for the first few chapters? But
yeah, like why at all? There's something to it. And
I think that's also a light reincarnation evidence as well, because, those spirits back then, will hear it. And then also the church in Philadelphia is being told that they will not have to go through the hour of temptation. So that I believe is that church is, like, again, distributed through the entire world, but they're the elect.
Man, I can't argue against it, because it's not dumb. And I felt the same intuition myself. I feel like
I've been
Yeah.
dealing with stuff and felt like this is definitely not new, and it also feels very consistent with something I've experienced before.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah,
on-
it's tough. It's
on
hard
a
to
more-
imagine the spirit, but in general, but it looks like it's in the Bible in many places.
on a somewhat more comical note, right? It's not even comical. It just makes sense. There's the you know how there's phallic symbols relating to Nimrod.
Yep.
What I noticed is that when I was looking at the stars, I noticed Nimrod underneath his belt, where his genitals would be, there is this line of stars that really looks like a phallus hanging out.
Dude, I look at one every time I look outside the window here in Houston. There's a big building. Like, it's just obvious. It's designed that way. It's horrible.
Well, there's these 3 stars that actually are Nimrod's phallus
Jeez.
that descend from beneath his belt line.
That's crazy.
And they're so obviously that when you look at it.
That's wild. But what was that example last time you went through FEB in the Old Testament? Was that Isaiah that you said that it aligned with?
Yeah, that'd be 736 BC.
Okay. So you got something in Isaiah, something in Revelation 12, something in Revelation 22?
Revelation 16, that was Revelation 22, and Isaiah 7. If I go to JUPI, Jupiter, so it's coming, and then it enters the womb of Virgo around November of 736 BC, and then it proceeds in the womb for 9 months, 9.5 months before leaving the womb. And bam, that's when the war, the Syrophoenician War began. And if it just paid attention to the sign, he would have known that he wouldn't have need to enlist the help of the Assyrians.
Yeah.
And the Assyrians, when they beat the Ephraimites, they took them into captivity, and then also attempted to take over the Judeans, which created a whole new set of headaches for King Hezekiah.
Yeah.
Whereas if he had not allied with the Assyrians, it's possible that Judah and Israel would have been able to have been unified, but instead Assyria just took northern kingdom captive and scattered them around the world.
Yeah.
Because he didn't have faith, because he didn't have the wisdom that would come from seeking out those things which God conceals, and the heavens declare the glory of God. Is the glory of God. It is Hakabod Elohim something the bar. I gotta look it up.
Mm-hmm.
So I can sound clever for a sec.
No, that's cool.
It's so
I like this thing, man. This is kind of interesting here, but man.
Let's see.
Wow.
Proverbs 25 Hebrew.
It just adds so much confidence in the timeline being rigid, even though we don't know when it'll go. You know, if a lot of it is literally timed, by the sun, moon, and stars, then, there's a very distinct beginning, even though I don't think we know what it is yet, and then the end. So that's kind of cool.
Right, and the ordinances of heaven are fixed. They don't change. They're not stopping or going based on, what Donald Trump does or how busy I am.
Exactly.
So this is even crazier. The heaven for height there for that. So here we go. Kabod Elohim. So verse 2. Verse 2. This chapter 25 Proverbs. Kabod Kabod Elohim ha setar dabar. Kabod is honor, Elohim is God, ha setar dabar, to hide the thing, to hide things, or to hide the word, to hide that which is orderly in the truth, the word of God. Mm-hmm. And then there's a vav here. You can see me highlighting things, I'm guessing, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, that vav means and. Ha kabod, which is honor. Melakim, which is king. King is the plural. Hakar, or hakar, the bar. So the bar and the bar, those are all the same. That's one word here, same word here. Okay. Why is it a thing here, which is so small, and then matter here, which is so it's like just, no. Anytime you hear the word of God, it's saying bar Elohim. It is the glory of God to conceal the word of God. And it is the honor of the glory of kings to search out the word of God, to search out the truth, and so on and so forth. So, and then it says, okay, Shamayim la rom wa aretz la amach wa leb melechim ayin chachar. So the heaven for height, so the heaven for height, the earth for depth. Well, that exact phrasing is used in Isaiah 7. Isaiah 7. Hebrew. I'm pretty sure it is.
But wait, sorry, FEB, what's your position on this, or what's the?
Oh, that's the point.
Yeah.
This points that the sign in the heaven, is literal. That really is the Isaiah 7 sign, because Hezekiah understood that was the revelation sign. So the heaven, because he used the exact word heaven for height.
Okay.
Then Ephraim also he said, go ask. Oh yeah, there we go. Ask thee the sign of the Lord. Either ask it in the depth or in the height above. Ask thee for a sign of the Lord. That is the sign that the woman should conceive the child and all that stuff.
Yeah.
That happened over here. That exact word is here. The heaven for height, the earth for depth. So this is Isaiah saying to Ahaz, ask thee for a sign. Ask thee either in the depth or in the height above.
Wow.
And that's exactly what they're for. The heavens declare the glory of God. And where does he conceal the glory of God? The glory of God is that which he conceals in the heavens, and is the glory of kings to search it out.
Man. Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
The heaven for height, the earth for depth, the heart. And this is the person who's recording this proverb of Solomon is the son of the guy Ahaz, to whom the sign was given, who denied the sign and caused the kingdom of Israel to be captured by the Assyrians, and then for the Assyrians to have the advantage over Judah, which begat King Hezekiah's problems in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
So he records this. Is the glory of God to conceal a thing, but the glory of kings to search out a matter, which my father did not do. Kabod Elohim hasatar dabar, wa kabod Elohim chakar dabar. His father didn't chakar dabar. You need to chakar dabar. And where do you chakar dabar? You find it in the heaven. The heavens declare the glory of God. The firmament showeth his handiwork.
It's kind of crazy to think like they would literally have like, now we have like debates, like debate shows and platforms.
Yeah.
They would have a bunch of people standing outside like stargazers debating about like what the sky means. Like that's kind of.
And no one looks at it now.
Yeah. Yeah, like literally. I mean.
Nobody. They think NASA has that under control. NASA. The lie. The deceivers. NASA.
Yeah, they could do studies and look for patterns and all that for sure.
So I was telling this Hebrew cat, hey man, there's some signs in the heaven, and then he tried to say, well, if you wanted to see what the people at the time really understood about the stars, you'd have to look into Josephus. And I'm like, all right, Negro, check this out. Sorry, this is wild. So Josephus, astrology, Hebrew. Jewish views on astrology. I wish they didn't use the word astrology. I wish they said astronomy, but I can't control the world. But the word is astronomy. There's really no difference at the time between the two things. What does Josephus do? What does Josephus say? I'll show you what Josephus said. Josephus, he got mad at his peers, Josephus, for not paying attention to the signs. Wars of the Jews, book 6, chapter 5. Okay. Because he's saying those fools, they should have known that the temple was going to be destroyed because they should have paid attention to the signs in the heaven. Book 6, chapter 5. There we go. Come on. Sorry, it's slow.
No, it's cool.
It's just some text. Why is it taking so long? Okay, here we go. Preface, no. Book 6. EI. Here we go. Chapter 5. The Holy House is on fire, section 3. Okay. So as he's trying to tell me not to look at the sky, and I should look at Josephus to see what he said, and I showed him. Thus, this is what Josephus had to say. Thus were the miserable people persuaded by these deceivers, and such that belied God himself, while they did not attend nor give credit to the signs which were so evident and did so plainly foretell of their desolation. But like men infatuated without either eyes to see or minds to consider, did not regard the denunciations that God made to them. Thus there was a star resembling a sword which stood over the city, and a comet that continued a whole year. Thus also before the Jews' rebellion and before those commotions which preceded the war, when the people were come in great crowds to fast of unleavened bread, and on the 8th day of Xanthicus or Nisan, and at the 9th hour of the night, so great a light shone around the altar in the holy house that it appeared to be bright daytime, which lasted for half an hour. This light seemed to be a good sign to the unskillful, but was so interpreted by the sacred scribes as to pretend to those events that followed immediately upon it. So he's saying there were so many stars in the heaven, they would have been idiots not to pay attention. Now we have a sign, we have the Isaiah 7 sign with 3 other different components wrapped around, and we have 2 eclipses, and the playing out, something that looks like a motif illustrative of the first and last books of the book of Revelation, playing out 7 years after the Revelation 12 sign, which demarcates the 7-year period. Mm-hmm. And then you're telling me to look at Josephus to get an idea. Okay, I showed him, and then he shut up. His mouth was stopped, so to speak.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty wild, man. It's a pretty fun, and it's right after the Passover, that eclipse. Mm-hmm. Right after the eclipse, Shazam. Well, this is 736 BC.
Yah's will is soaring is like, this generation will see the coming of the Lord. Could not agree with that anymore. I don't know how it could not be the case. Like, this is just overwhelming evidence. There's way too many coincidences, and now we're adding all these things going on in the stars. Like, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
Jeez. That's a lot of coincidences.
Yeah, I can't take them to be coincidences. Well, and I don't think you're taking them to be coincidences either, obviously.
Yeah.
Why Yah's will is soaring? I get the vibe that you're in a contentious. I don't know. I don't want to.
I would say I kind of now more accept the fact that what I believe will not make sense to a lot of people, and so it might be useful to some, but I really at this point, because what I believe, I'll be honest, is kind of outlandish for me as well, and so
yeah, right.
I don't really push too hard, but I would say I would definitely challenge somebody to not you, FEB, but just in general, to provide a more consistent interpretation of the book of Revelation. Because, again, I don't say this to boast, but once you put the 2 witnesses in there, the whole book makes sense now. The entire thing. That there'll literally be 2 witnesses administering the plagues in 16. Then the whole thing plays out like a movie, and it makes sense. You don't have to spiritualize it. You don't have to say, oh, it's the 400 years of slavery. I heard one guy literally say he thought the 2 witnesses being resurrected or being taken away was 3.5 years rounded up to 4. And that's 400 years of slavery. I'm like, what? Like, what do you mean, dude? Who's doing those plagues in 16? Where are they coming from? Just the random, like, I don't know. Like, it has to be from somebody, something. And I think that's the narrative that's the way it's going to go.
Yeah, I don't disagree. And I how should I put this? I think the conjecture that you are presenting, and I don't think you would call it. I think you'd call it something stronger than a conjecture. And I think you'd be right to call it something other than that. Is persuasive and compelling. And I think it's not inconsistent with the thing in the sky.
No, not at all.
I think the thing in the sky, I'm willing to speak. I'm not even saying what the thing in the sky really demarcates. I'm just saying it's an interesting picture. If I say any more than that, I'd be speaking dishonestly in order to make a claim greater than what I'm trying to make.
Yeah.
So I can only say what I'm saying. And if I could say it better and more clearly, I've actually written a script out in order to make a video on it that condenses.
But look at all the things that are like pinning it down. That, the mark of the beast, Mystery Babylon not really being a mystery anymore, honestly, the real Jews. I mean, all these things that are like underpinning the entire book of Revelation are like obvious. You know, it's one thing if it was like, I don't know, it was like really controversial, like stretching a bunch of verses to make it fit. I mean, I don't know. Like, you don't really have to stretch the mark of the beast. You don't have to stretch Mystery Babylon. You have to stretch any of those things. You know, the fake Jews being the people in Israel. Like, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, it's all very straight. None of it's a stretch. None of it's a stretch.
Yeah, I would worry if it was a stretch, but it's not, you know, and then you correlate it with reality. It's like very easy to test all those things, like all of them, you know, like those things are like very much mainstream news now. Like, I would say we as Americans are figuring out how evil America was, but people have known this, you know, worldwide for a long time. We're just catching on, kind of, some of us, but.
Big facts. I think it's the American right wing is peculiar to me because it's like they get that something's wrong, and then they go and they hear. I was just at a pro-life rally today, and it was more of a testimony to how degraded things have become than it was a rally in support of something good, because they were saying things like, it's basically like hearing a bunch of like being in an idiocracy land and hearing people say, "We declare that 1 + 1 = 2, and grass is green, and we will not give any more tax money to anyone saying grass is purple.
Yeah,
no more. It has to be raised. You have to raise your own money to say grass is purple," and they're cheering for this.
Yeah,
like the battle's so. America, they're proclaiming how great it was that Arizona was the most anti-abortion state in the union, and it's like, well, what does that mean? It just means that that Planned Parenthood gets the least amount of money in Arizona. That's all it means. It means literally nothing, and they're cheering for how deeply defeated that they were, and thinking that it's a sign of it's so sad.
It's just such a like oxymoronic name, Planned Parenthood, with respect to what service they're offering. It's just crazy. Like, oh man,
premeditated murder,
planned non-parenthood. I guess I don't know. It's just strange. Yeah,
everything is upside down. Nothing means what it says.
Yeah. For those that can accept it, that's God's judgment. You know, He used to do that literally with people in the Old Testament. Now He's doing it through people, and so it's not pleasant, and we don't want more of it, but this is God doing these things, and that's scary that He cares that much about sin, but He obviously does.
It gives me sympathy for the Old Testament Hebrews because because it's like, okay, yeah, God rescued them out of like, you know, Egypt and did all these crazy miracles and stuff, and they still fell into apostasy. Well, literally, and they only had so many Torah scrolls though at the time, and granted, some things weren't obvious to everybody generation after generation. I could see maybe, well, actually, it sounds kind of ridiculous how they could ever fall into apostasy given all the wonders that God wrought.
Yes, I wonder about that. Yeah,
but then what do we have now? Well, we have the Gutenberg printing press, the Bible, literally everywhere, and you have 2,000 years of, you know, you have a lot, and still, and it goes, and now we have training land and all this stuff. So, I mean, even under the best circumstances, it still turns into the same shit. So it proves the point that if you had 2,000 years, you'd fuck it up too. Yeah.
I think the biggest issue that I think it's not wrong to say, because it's kind of obvious, is the biggest issue with all humanity is we don't have anything productive to do, and only I realize now only God can provide that. You know, it's just. If the Bible's true, nothing, at least definitely in America, is productive because there's plans to destroy it, and then the entire world literally looks like it's going to get absolutely annihilated. So There's nothing that will stand, literally. And so even if it were the case that they would be preserved, who cares? It's like, who's benefiting from it, financially or otherwise? And so that's what I think that a lot of us realize now, is that everything on earth just is not productive.
All my labor is such vanity. It's just moving pixels around and code around here and there.
Yeah.
An email here and there. It's just, and I'm doing it because, I mean, God has given me this income and this method of work that requires very surprisingly little of me.
Mm-hmm.
And it allows me to do my ministry. But I know that
that's good.
Whereas my peers, they like a lot of, not my peers, a lot of people I know, they're constantly working as they think they're working towards something.
Yeah.
Like, you think, like, and even the things that they're working toward are so vain. Like, what? They can't really get careers with retirements anymore. That's not really for my generation.
Yeah.
It's not in the cards. And my dad's talking to me about getting a job. Oh my Lord. He's a cop and he's about to retire. And I want to tell him, bro, like, you think you're going to get $50,000 a year from the state and you think the state, and you and every other cop who's retiring in the next 10 years, you think that's going to work?
Yeah.
You think that house of cards isn't going to collapse in on you?
Yeah, pretty much. I was watching these videos today that they scared me, man, just even more than I was already scared about the financial scheme. It's crazy, dude. The numbers just don't add up, man. All they can do is print to hyperinflation. That's like the only way they can back out of this, or just calamity.
That's the opposite of backing out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Either way, it's calamity. It just I would say prolongs it a little bit with the excessive printing, because it still creates the illusion of like money is still available for people to transact, but it'll become worthless.
And as they do that, exactly, it lowers the value at their retirement pension.
Yeah. Eventually the person receiving it realizes, like, okay, I need something else, like your TV or like your golf clubs or something else that's actually real.
It's insane to me that my father imagines that if I play the game that he's playing, that in another generation, I'll be able to pull another $500,000. It's like, you're out of your fucking NT.
Yeah.
You're insane.
I would say we're running into a couple of scenarios where soon either like no one will care about the Bible, or like everybody will be desperate for salvation. Like it's coming up to that kind of a time in human history, and both are not biblical. It's like there are a group that are going to want it, and like a relatively small group, and there's going to be a large group of people that are like unaware, like just oblivious. And I don't see how that could be in any time period. Now, obviously it's very convenient because that's what the focus of my channel is, but I'm being very like logical about, I don't see it. I see either two extremes forming in the future, and that's not what the Bible says. So I think that, when it says no flesh will be saved if the days were not cut short for the elect's sake, I think what the Bible is getting at ultimately is that no one's going to care after a certain point. Like no one's going to seek for salvation. No one's going to expect God to return. It's just a free for all. It's just whatever, hyperinflation or stagflation or whatever you call it. It's just going to be.
Do you feel like time is moving faster?
What is that?
Have you experienced time moving faster?
I think it is too. Yeah, for sure.
Like on a second by second, minute by minute basis.
Yeah. Like the days are moving faster. Yeah.
I experienced that as well. I noticed also young people. I mean, that people will claim to be a certain age, but they look way younger than what that age is.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm 28, and I think I look pretty young. If not for the facial hair, I look even younger than that. And I see people who are graduating from high school. It's like, maybe it's because I'm old now, but they look like they're children in high school. I look up pictures of people from like the 1980s, like high school graduates. They look like grown ass men. They're old. And I don't know. I think time is like being compressed such that when people are graduating high school, they went through less time than their peers.
Yeah.
A few decades ago.
Mm-hmm.
It's fine with me, man. The days being short is super convenient. Fewer times to be tempted with sin. fewer opportunities.
Yeah. I think that, I think it's, there's definitely a different vibe. You know, it's not even just people, you know, when we refer to our childhood, we're like, oh man, things were so different. It's like, it's not just because of the internet and like all the different social media. It's like, there's a different cadence to the day, like as a young kid than there is now, for sure. Like there's no doubt, like it's not even comparable, but, the days cut short, I believe, is referring to the 3.5 year period, which we're in, not into 3.5 years.
I agree with that as well.
But I don't know, like, if that's the case, but that's what I think. And that means that it's variable, and it's up to God and him interacting with these people and then seeing, you know, what's going on. And then after that, it's very, very rigid time periods. So thankfully. So that's why for people out there, man, again, this is outlandish even for me because I've never had any experience like this in my life, but just be practical about it. Like if there's something out there that visits, there's no way that it's evil or more evil than our governments. Like, don't be ridiculous. That's it now. You know, the clock is ticking, not just on our life, but all of human existence on Earth, the way we know it. That sounds very heavy, but there's no way around it. If God takes a half a step forward, that's everything, you know. It's like he's not going to like pull himself back. Everything goes back to normal. You know, that's not the way it's going to work.
Sorry, continue.
Right?
What? No, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, I was just saying, really, any God, that's not the way it would work. You know, it's like, especially when he sees the things that are going on Earth, it's not like he'll come and have half an opinion on it, you know, be like, oh yeah, you know, everything for the most part, it's pretty good. We'll just fix a couple things over here and all that. Like if we're annoyed and irritated by it, what plan do we have to correct? There's no way. So, and for me, it's like, what difference would it make if he did that now or if he did that 5 or 10 years from now? Like it's not progressing and it's never going to righteousness. You know, it can't, because righteousness as defined by the Bible is God's laws, and God's laws are not followed by even people who preach that God's laws are important. Like it's not, so that's not even necessarily a shot, but that's just the way it is. You know, it's a system that does not allow us to learn them and incorporate them into our day-to-day life in any way. That's by design. Because if we could, then I think truth and righteousness could flourish in a part of the world, and it wouldn't be as hellish. And then the mark of the beast could not come true because it would not be for all people. There would be a group of people who would not be subject to that, and then that would go against Bible prophecy. Let's say it was a substantial group that could maintain the laws, you know, various parts of the world, and, you know, maintain righteousness that way off the land and all that. That won't fulfill Bible prophecy. That's why the thing is, the mark of the beast passage is so over the top. It kind of forces God really in many ways to make a system incredibly evil, and he needs something big to motivate it.
It's funny that you say that because I have a lot of peers. I have a couple of peers who all more or less, we're all on the same page about these big important things.
Yeah.
Earth being flat, the small hats, the Jews being who they are, et cetera, et cetera. And these are Gentiles and blacks. Mm-hmm. Among the younger ones, they have this idea that they can buy some plot of land and, you know, we can establish a new breakaway colony that lives by the laws, and not even necessarily by the law, but lives righteously as best as they can. Yeah. And homestead, Owen Benjamin it up. And the money exists among these people to do so to a degree. Yep. That said, my I think how nice would this be? But my heart really isn't in it because of the timeline. Yeah. It just can't work.
No. And what would they do? Like over multiple generations? Like what?
They would factionalize and then start cannibalizing one another.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know how. Like you could probably make a case for a group being able to survive for a long period of time, but I don't know. Like God would have to be with them for sure to keep them healthy and all that and stuff. I don't know. It's just hard for me to believe, unless they have very different human bodies than we do, that are just bigger and stronger like they were in the past, you know, less susceptible to, like, you know, decay. because I think it's very obvious for people, especially if you read the Old Testament and they're, marching out of Egypt. They didn't have the same bodies that we did, not at all. Like they even said that God kept them from their feet getting sore. So
Right.
they didn't have our bodies. Like, I get tired walking up 5 flights of stairs, and I'm not in bad shape. So that's reaffirmed in Esdras. The earth is decaying and God is decaying the people as well. And he's doing that on purpose. I hope to God this is our final punishment.
And then the healthcare system is constantly acting as if it can that people feel so much that they need health insurance, they need healthcare, Yeah. Well, if they're living in sin, they're of course doing damage to their bodies just on principle. And if they're working these jobs that are super stressful, they're causing damage to their own bodies. Yeah. And there's God causing the degradation of the flesh in general because it's the end.
Yeah.
And then the healthcare system is because everyone lives in a secular mindset, they think that the healthcare system is literally the thing that's going to keep them alive. So they're constantly thinking about healthcare. Healthcare.
And it's a scam, that's an obvious scam, the system. Yes. Yeah. The healthcare system.
Doesn't even cross my mind, healthcare.
Jeez. That's another thing too that makes this whole system unsustainable, is that the very people that we're going to for religious help, fair enough, they're all sold out, want money. Okay, we could possibly deal with that. But the very people that are supposed to keep us alive, they're against us and want us hooked on their system. So that's scary. And then they're charging people absurd amounts of money for that quote service. So it's just messed up. It's crazy.
'Tis wicked.
Yeah. It's not looking good, FEB, but I mean, it's looking good for people who are on the God of the Bible's good side. That's for sure. Looking real good. So
yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'm having a good time.
Yeah, that's good, man. No, I appreciate you joining, dude. It was good. I'm not sure what I'm going to teach going forward because I don't really know what I have left to say. But, I'll throw on some stuff. And if you ever want to join again, dude, it was great talking. Cool. I'm glad you held Carlos to the fire because I told him I would be diplomatic because I've called him Satan, and like he's wanted to like kill all flat earthers. So I gave him a hard time. That
was my first thought. This guy is Satan.
He's yeah. I've said that to his face, and not to his face, but like over those.
Yeah, I get it.
Those debates, and he's like, "Yeah, why don't you have me on so we can talk?" And I'm like, "That's fair enough. I can't just rip somebody and not let them speak." So hearing him talk about the possibility of the end times to me was like, I don't think he'll say that amongst his other people, because he'll rip flat earthers and say we're idiots, but then go and say God loves the homosexuals and the trannies and stuff, but he'll like make fun of us like we're stupid and stuff like that. So he's playing that role in the other hangouts, but at least this time he came up and said, yeah, I mean, it's possible. You can't even get the average Christian to even talk about it, honestly.
That's a weird job you got. I wonder what the application process is first for live stream Satan. What's the required work experience in order to get this job?
I think military, a lot of them are military. That's easier for me to visualize, like posting. As many hangouts and all that. That makes sense. Like I know that, and even some of the flat earthers, we know they're military as well. Like Quantum Eraser, they admit that they're ex-military. So we know that.
Well, Crow 777.
Yeah, we know a lot of those people are just completely on the inside. But these other people, I wouldn't be surprised if they're through like the Masonic lodges and then they know one another and like they just,
that's such a shit job because you're screwed for that job. You're literally doing you're really making it because you must know it's flat. So you're really making a deal with the devil.
Yeah.
So
those people know it's flat more than the average ball earther for sure. Definitely. Because their arguments, the way they speak is just not technical.
It's not natural.
No,
it's not technical. It's not true, and it's not natural.
Yeah, it's not natural. It's not inquisitive. It's not, hey, okay, you believe something crazy. Hey, look, we got an earth right here. We can go figure it out. Let's come up with a test. Let's talk about it.
It's programmatic.
Yeah, we can pay for an engineering firm. It's not that hard. It's definitely not easy, but you could. And it's not even that you would need to do the test. We know they're lying just by the way they talk. because they don't want to get
Exactly.
an answer.
Did you see how when I asked, it was a yes or no question. I want to make sure this question gets answered. Is there anything in the Bible that substantiates what you believe? And he says, I wouldn't go to the Bible for that. That's not the question.
Because you know it's flamboyantly flat.
Whether or not you would go there. Is there anything in the Bible that substantiates what that's consistent? No.
Yeah.
So get that. Okay, that's done from the jump. Okay, is there anything in reality that does? No. So whatever you say from here on out is retarded. I don't have to listen to you.
Yeah.
You don't have to waste any more time profane and vain babblings. You now sit in a corner until you're spoken to for something just for humor's sake.
FEB, you would like this, dude. We asked him one time, point blank. We all experience flat and stationary. What would motivate you to go and then, to become a quote ball earther? He's like, angular size of the sun doesn't change. And I'm like, dude, how did you come up with that? Like, where'd you get that as an answer? That was his first quote unquote ball earth proof. I'm like, well, okay, that's fine, if that's what you worry about, but that's just what you is. That doesn't mean that the earth is moving, that just means if you observe that, that's what happened, with the sun. But,
okay, it's not true.
Yeah, it's not. Then there's no way to prove that unless you actually test that in all different places on Earth. And
atmospheric lensing. Also, when you don't have the atmospheric lensing effect, the sun does in fact shrink. Yeah, and we need to first define even what the outer edge of the sun truly is, so we're not. Yeah, like we need to know what we're measuring. What's moving in the quote unquote sky atmosphere. There's a lot of problems, obviously, with that, but again, it just goes to show that the whole thing is just messed up. Like this is an incredible deception by God because it's technically brilliant, and then he's also got a whole bunch of people on payroll who will fight this every day. I'm talking about this guy, dude. These guys come on these hangouts multiple times a day. I just got tired and I realized we're never going to get to a solution. And all they do is they make fun of us like we're stupid and stuff. So I'm like, whatever. Like I can just do without that for a day. So no normal person does that.
No, it's not. No, it's not. And not even people who are paid are that kind of angry about other people holding another view. It doesn't make sense. It's like you can just defend ball earth. You don't have to go and say we're stupid and like I'm going to kill all you people and all that kind of stuff. Like that's motivated by another spirit.
You said kill?
Yeah, he was just joking, but I mean, I don't know. Like I don't know. That's why we don't know what's up with some of these people and all these like GMS and all these alphabet soups and all that. Like we don't know what those people are really, really up to, man. That's what scares me about the world now is that the atheists are out of their mind because they believe in a big bang. And then now these religious people are just lost, like they're emotional. They don't want to talk about flat earth. They don't want to talk about other ideas like, hey, are you guys sure about this and all that? Like they'll get all crazy. And so I'm just like, dude, I just going to kind of say my piece through my channel. I think it's pretty much it. And let's see what happens, I guess.
Yeah, that's reasonable. That's what I do.
I don't know, man. Like the topic of God, just now I realize actually more and more that God exists by the fact that people don't want to talk about him. So I'm like, why would you not? Like, what's the big deal?
Check out this sick T-shirt.
Who is that?
It's Jeffrey Epstein. It says R.I.P. Epstein.
I didn't follow any of that narrative. I just didn't want to be bothered with that.
It's not really interesting. A guy faked his. It's. You can Google what it's about, what was going on with him.
It's a distraction from what's really going on.
It is a complete distraction, but it's one of those like 9/11 entry level conspiracies you can talk to people about.
Dude, we got the freaking GMS on the streets talking about everything in the news like it's real. I'm just like, dude, you guys are sitting here talking about stuff that we all know just is not real. Like, what do you mean? Like,
so you see CNN? You saying they faked the moon landing?
Yeah, it's like, come on, dude. That's why it's fun to be a flat earther because we know all that stuff is just noise. Like, it's just fake beef. It's just theater, like, oh my God, dude. This earth is not moving like at all. So it's just what it is. So
the buildings aren't moving, man.
No.
All right, it's been a good chat.
Yeah. All right, FEB, dude. I think I'm going to get a late dinner, but thanks again for joining, man.
Thanks for having me, bro.
I'll see what happens going forward. But if you ever watch any of those Revelation things or whatever, want to discuss them, let me know.
I've been watching them as you've been putting them out.
Oh, okay. All right. So if you ever see any verses that maybe I could be used against them or support them or whatever.
Yeah, again, what I'm saying so far is that what you're saying makes sense, but I'm not in a position in which it's not been put in my spirit to say this is in fact true. But I can say that I've heard way more insane things than what you're saying, despite how unorthodox it is.
Yeah. Well, just you like to go into kind of the deeper things, so like I definitely, not just now, but in general in the future, if you have any feedback, just let me know. I would say a majority of the people that respond to my videos, I just delete it. Like it's just trash. So, you and a few others actually say something constructive. So feel free.
That's the weird thing about agreeing with someone. When you agree or think, okay, this is true sounding, that's all I can say is that's true sounding.
Yeah.
But if you disagree, you can say, well, this is stupid because blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
So
I also take comfort in a lot of things too when I mention it to people. Like there was a guy, End Times Teachers, who used to come around here and all that. And then I just find it interesting when I posted those videos, they don't come by, and I take comfort in that, because once you come up with a concrete narrative for the end times that you're asking people for feedback, and they're just people, Esau, Edomites, kill all of them, they're all idiots.
You're right.
Because it takes away their ammo from that, because you don't talk about that anymore, because we talk about Israel in the other nations. We talk about a mixed multitude. We talk about all these, people across the earth. Yeah, like they don't want to talk about that. But like the book of Revelation, if people think, God's exclusive and hates everybody, to me, that's the most inclusive book that I've ever seen.
The heavens declare the glory of God. The firmament showeth his handiwork. Day unto day uttereth speech. Night unto night showeth knowledge. There is no speech nor language where their voice is not heard.
Right.
The words God, and the words in the ends of so everyone can see it.
Yeah.
It's for everybody.
Yeah, and that's another powerful point about the end times too, that for people who believe that the gospel was spread in the past, you're free to believe that, but now we would need a supernatural group or a duo or something, because there's languages, there's like thousands of languages, sometimes in like just India. And so something else has to happen. To me, it has to be a UFO, a thing where when it's moving around, we sense it, in our spirit. And some people don't. Some people sense that it's evil, and other people will sense that that's like our quote dad, our quote father. And so, yeah, I mean, all that multiple languages dispersed amongst the nations. The book of Revelation, the God of the Bible, is very, very inclusive to all people that hear his voice. That's an amazing thing.
I have a fight coming up on February 22nd.
Oh, okay.
I was gonna
spiritual one or a physical one?
Physical one.
Okay.
I fight Muay Thai.
Oh, okay.
And the guy I was gonna fight, his name was Varun Nair. And I looked up his last name, Nair. He was part of the Kshatriya class.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
I was curious. Do you know anything about your family's religious thing, like what caste that you were born from?
No, I do know that we're somewhere in the middle, though. We're not. My sister married into a guy who's the highest class, Brahmin, but we're like in the middle. We're like farmers, and stuff. Like, what's that? How do you spell that guy's last name? Nayyer.
Nair.
Oh, Nair. Interesting. Okay.
Kshatriya is like the warrior class. Brahmin's like the priest class.
Yeah.
And I forgot. Then there's the lowest class, which is like Hindu class.
Yeah.
Yeah. Untouchable something. And then there's the merchant class, and then there's the farmer class.
We're definitely the farmer class, dude. We are straight farmers, dude. Like straight. Like I haven't seen any part of India except farms.
What's farmed in India?
Bananas, tobacco, like mangoes and different things like that.
Based. That sounds like a good thing. I like all those things.
Sugar cane, like stuff like that. Like, I don't know. I haven't been back since 2005, and I'd love to go back, but I'm sure I'd be amazed because there's going to be cell phones, TV and stuff. I'll be like, what the hell happened? Like, totally different. So,
Right.
Yeah, man. Good luck in the fight, dude. That's amazing.
Thanks, bro. It'll be fun. I know I'm gonna win it, and I'll take the belt. It's for the lightweight belt.
Nice. That's great, dude. We need flat earthers succeeding because ballers are just winning at life too much. So we need something, you know.
I'll knock his block off and I'll give an announcement. My coach is a flat earther, and so are a lot of people. And
that's good.
And the promoter is a flat earther because my coach is the promoter.
Oh, nice. There's got to be more out there than we know, right? That are just in the closet about it. So I would hope that there are more. So
yeah, there's a couple.
Yeah.
I gotta go, bro. It was good. It's a great chat.
All right, man. Yeah, thanks. Have a good one, man. Take care.
Bye.
Peace. Bye. All right, guys. Thanks again for joining. I'll decide what I'm gonna do going forward, but I might have an open panel. It's good having everybody on. It's rare to have a panel with more flat earthers than ball earthers. So we'll declare that a victory just by the numbers. But I appreciate Carlos coming on, being diplomatic and all that. It was good. And I don't know if what I presented in my channel recently is correct. Things look like they might be heating up soon. Hope everyone's doing well. Have a good evening and great rest of the weekend. Take care. Bye.